Do 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 do. All right, Rockfin, I'm always waiting on you. Oh, there you go. Do 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 do.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, fam. We have a big show tonight. I am so excited about it. Really quick, do some housekeeping here really quick. I will not be live this Sunday. I have plans this weekend. So after tonight's stream, I will see you live again on Tuesday evening. Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. We won't do call in tonight because I have plans tomorrow morning. I'm just really busy. It's a lot going on. We're really like winding down things with the documentary. So it's getting to be that moment. It's looking really good. But anyway, welcome back, guys. Tonight's theme is two things can be true. Two things can be true. And I'm going to show you that tonight. We are also going to do a deep dive tonight in one of our stories. I haven't done a deep dive on the show in a couple of weeks, actually. I didn't realize how long it's been. So it's good to get back to doing that. I want to give shout outs to people in the chat first, and then we will get this show on the road, ladies and gents. Hey. All right. Shout out to John Hill, says, keep speaking truth to power. Thank you, John. Shout out to Blockbuster, says, hi. Greetings, Mr. Moto, says, vote harder, people. Shout out to JN for becoming a Sabby member, and shout out to Geraldine King for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give them both a big whoop, whoop. You know how we do it over here. Shout out to Sam, says, okay. Shout out to Mary Luquin and give her a big whoop whoop for becoming a Sabby member as well. Greetings, Han says, only if. Much love, Sabby. Only if what? Shout out to Lorez says, hiya, Sabby, Sabs, Eric, Corey, and RBN fam. Great show with JB earlier. I have a feeling the Jillian Anna fight is going to be hilarious. Support Sabby by watching ads and smashing the like, y'all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to have some fun tonight. Shout out to Chrome since peace, love, Sabby. Greetings, Bill says, Kirk didn't take the money, but who did? Oh. Dun, dun, dun. Greetings, Be Best says the rich want the left and right to fight while getting richer and troops in every state. Yes, somebody's paying attention over here. Shout out to New York Varsity said, let's go, shooby dooby doo. Greetings, Mark says, Sabby. Greetings, Real Talk Tim. Congrats on 250K, Sabby. Doing the damn thing. Let's go. Don't forget your YouTube plaque. Love you. Hello, chat. Eric and Corey. Did you get my email? I sent a video of a Zionist I had to curse out. I saw an email, but there wasn't a link for the video. I just saw like the subject line, but I didn't see anything in the body of the email. So maybe you forgot to send the link, but thank you. And yes, I have plans when I get back on Sunday. I have plans to put that plaque up. I haven't done it because it's not as easy. I keep forgetting to do it, but also I do have to move some things around behind me to get that plaque up there. So that's also why I think I kind of put that off. Shout out to Ideology says Israel is now threatening China. Israel is making it easier for their own destruction at this point if they think they can beat China, even with the US. Yeah, I heard about that. They have seriously lost their freaking minds. Greetings, Dana says, good evening, everybody. Shout out to RB Gritter says, Sabby, been on fire for a minute now. Well, thank you. Greetings, Hannah says, sup. Shout out to James says, good evening, all my Sabby, Eric news hounds. Shout out to Cloudman says, salute to Sabby Sabs and everyone in the building. America is going crazy, but this is good. Yeah, I see it this way too. Like people are starting to think, like people are opening their minds and they're saying, hey, I don't want to be stuck in this box. Let me see what's really going on out here in these streets. And I think, a lot of people are just waking up. And shout out to Lee says, good evening, folks. Celebrating making it on time. All right. All right. All right. Ladies and gents, if you have not done so, please be sure to dun, dun, dun. Smash that like button for me. Thank you very much. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Thank you very much. Someone was asking me this the other day. They're like, what's with the Care Bear thing? When I was a kid, Care Bears were really popular. And I don't know how old everyone is in the chat, but when I was a little kid, Care Bears were like the thing. And, I had like different types of Care Bear. I had a Cheer Bear, a Sunshine Bear. I still have a Sunshine Bear, a very tiny one. But Sunshine Bear was always my favorite. And the Care Bears were so huge, they even had their own cartoon. And they used to push out their little tummies and they would say, Care Bear stare. And they would fight their enemies with their love. So like love would shoot out of their tummies and just like, and defeat their enemies. Maybe we need something like that today. I don't know. Maybe we need to bring the Care Bears back to get people to realize that the way that you fight back against your enemies is with love. Something to think about. Something to think about. Angelique says, oh, I love the Care Bears. Yeah. So some people know. Real Tim said rainbow power. Yeah. They just stick their little tummies out. There was a grumpy bear. Covert. Yeah. There was a grumpy bear. So he was a grumpy bear and an Eeyore fan. Big up for lifetime of depression. Yeah. There was a grumpy bear, even though they were all about love. But yeah, that's really interesting. And Tip said, yes, love and kindness healed all. Yep. Yep. Back in the day, man, before social media and smartphones and all that jazz. Okie doke, folks. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to Sabby patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you around here, fam. If you are interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories, folks. We have the ultimate. We have those Sabinators. Sabinators kind of sounds like a team on like American Gladiators or something. Do people remember that show, American Gladiators? That was something. Sabsters. We also have Sabbies. Don't forget about those guys. And we also have a group called Members. All of their names are listed here. And you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen on that little ticker throughout the show. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate all of you, fam. Okay, let's go ahead and show you that thumbnail, ladies and gents. We actually have 6 stories to cover tonight. It's so much news going on. Sometimes it's hard to keep up, but here we are. So, what are we discussing tonight, ladies and gents? Let's get right into it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Give it to me one more time. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, woo, this is a big one. We are discussing Charlie Kirk's friend speaks out. That is Andrew Colvett right next to Charlie Kirk there in that picture. He is finally speaking out about some of the things that happen behind the scenes, which I think this actually gives the gray zone big kudos here, because you're going to see with his story, once you hear him, you're going to see it's not just Candace Owens. It's not just Tucker Carlson. It's not just Megyn Kelly saying these things. It's not just, of course, the gray zone saying these things. Now you have someone who was very close to Charlie Kirk, also a part of Turning Point USA, basically co-signing, signing on to some of the things that the gray zone said in that article. So we are going to get into that. We're also going to discuss, if you didn't hear about the ICE shooting that happened in Dallas, Texas, we have a picture there of Kash Patel, because once again, he has stepped in it. And I honestly wonder if he's going to make it throughout the Trump administration. I don't know. But he's not handling things in a proper manner. Again, we brought up this word transparency. So we're going to get into all of that and why people are pointing fingers at Kash Patel for being what I would call reckless. We're also going to discuss, that is Jillian Michaels right next to him. She was one of the trainers on The Biggest Loser. She is now a part of the political space. She apparently got pretty triggered and decided to walk off the set. I guess what Anna had to say was a little too much for her. We're going to get into that story. Oh my God, that one is funny. We have to break that down. We're also going to discuss, I am doing a deep dive here about why Democrats failed. So you see that picture there of Hakeem Jeffries. He's part of it, but he's not the whole story. So we're going to do a little bit of a case study here, and I'm going to tell you something that the Republican Party did that actually was smart. Listen, I don't like the Republican Party. I don't like the Democratic Party, but I will admit when there's something that they did was actually pretty smart, and the Democrats never took advantage of something that they showed them to do. And what does that have to do with Charlie Kirk? So we'll get into all of that as well. We're also going to discuss this MAGA versus the HBCU. Okay, this showdown that happened at Tennessee State University. A lot of people are talking about this story, but they're not telling you who these guys actually are. And I think that's the biggest part of this story. So we'll get into that. And last but not least, I told you we got 6 stories. We are also covering this news from Italy and Spain intervening here to help the freedom flotillas. And what does that mean for Israel? Israel's pissing a lot of people off. Now you got European countries mad at you. You got European countries mad at you, boo. All right, again, tonight's theme is 2 things can be true. Let's go ahead and get into the first story here. This is a big one. As you guys know, there have been 50 ships that are a part of the Freedom Flotilla that set sail to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid. Well, Israel has been striking them using drone attacks. They have been targeted multiple times as they get closer and closer to Gaza. What does this have to do with Italy and Spain? Let's start with Italy. Italy has decided to intervene, and so has Spain. They are sending warships to apparently help the Freedom Flotilla. Guys, I'm telling you, Israel has bit off more than it can chew. Let's get into it.
Italy and Spain are sending warships to assist the international aid flotilla trying to take aid to Gaza after it came under drone attack. The global Samud flotilla is using about 50 civilian boats to try and break Israel's naval blockade of Gaza. Many lawyers and activists, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg, are on board. An Italian frigate was sent on Wednesday, hours after the global Samud flotilla said it was targeted by drones in international waters off Greece. The flotilla blamed Israel for the attack, in which the drones dropped stun grenades and itching powder. No one was hurt.
Y que se respete el derecho de nuestros ciudadanos.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said on Wednesday Spain would be sending a warship in case the Spanish nationals and the others aboard needed assistance or rescue.
Well, we are stressed a little bit.
A Spanish lawmaker, Juan Bordera, is on board the flotilla.
Yesterday.
I have to pause this part here and then come back in because they show the strike, which we can't show on here. But he is one of the ones that is on board. So let's come back in at this point here.
Yeah, it has been a crazy nightmare yesterday.
The Israeli Foreign Ministry did not respond directly to accusations it sent the drones. It repeated an invitation for the flotilla to drop humanitarian aid at an Israeli port, leaving it to Israeli authorities to take it to Gaza. Israel has accused the flotilla activists of complicity with the Hamas militant group. Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto said on Thursday Italy couldn't guarantee the safety of Italian citizens in other countries' territorial waters.
All right, let's go ahead and pop out here for just a second. So Italy and Spain's position are a little bit different. I do want to show that to you. From what I understand, Italy is trying to encourage the Freedom Flotilla to give the humanitarian aid to them. Meanwhile, Spain has a more bold approach. And Spain has also done something else, which also is breaking news in regards to Israel. So Italy, let's show you this. This is what they're trying to do. Italy urges Gaza flotilla to hand over aid after drone attack. So this is what I think, some people got excited because they said, oh, Italy's going to intervene. But it sounds like to me, Italy is trying to get them to hand over that aid, not help them continue the journey. We'll get into this a little bit here from this article from Reuters. It said Italy urged the international flotilla to hand over its aid supplies for Gaza on Wednesday and allow them to be distributed by the local Catholic Church as a way to ward off further risk after the flotilla was attacked by drones overnight. Well, I mean, we all know Israel doesn't respect the Catholic Church either. So Israel just attacked a Christian church not too long ago. I think that was like maybe 2 months ago. We talked about that on the show. That was one of the things that I know really upset Marjorie Taylor Greene. She said they're attacking Christians too. Yeah, so I don't know what that would do. But the global flotilla is using 50 civilian boats to try to break Israel's naval blockade of Gaza. Many lawyers, activists, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg, are also on board. Now, Italy sent a Navy ship to the flotilla's assistance after the vessels were attacked by 12 drones in international waters, 30 nautical miles off the Greek island of Gaza. All passengers were safe after drone exploded over their vessels. Goes on to say here, the Italian Prime Minister said Rome's proposal was to hand over the aid in Cyprus to the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, which would then deliver it, right? So here's what Meloni, who's the Prime Minister of Italy, said. It is a proposal that seems to have the support of the Cypriot government, the Israeli government, and of course, the Italian government. We are awaiting a response from the flotilla. So he is urging them to just hand over that aid. Now, that Italian Navy ship apparently has already been mobilized. So we'll get to Spain in just a second, but I just want to say something. It was just a couple of days ago, we talked about the fact that workers in Italy had a general strike for Gaza. They even shut down the docks, which is essential when we're talking about supply distribution. So I said that's something that we should look at. And I said before, there are ways to fight back and to do so in a nonviolent way. And one of those ways is economically. That's why I support boycott, divest, and sanction Israel, because that's really where you really want to disrupt what Israel's doing. We got to hit them in the pocket. And that's what I've been trying to explain to people for quite some time. So I think that we could look at what Italy has done and maybe, leverage that here in the United States as well. That's one of the things that can be done. Now, I want to show you this one here. This was on Democracy Now! As well. Again, talking about Italy and Spain sending those naval ships.
The messages we have to Palestinians in Gaza are many. First, that I'm absolutely disgusted and appalled to live in a world where our people in power every day are betraying Palestinians, and how there are so many people who can seemingly just accept the extreme injustice and the mass slaughtering of people without doing anything. So for that, I am heartbroken, and this is not about me or my feelings at all, but I'm heartbroken to live in that world. What is happening now, for example, in Gaza City should not come as a surprise, because Israel have been very clear from the beginning that this is their intent. They have genocidal intent, that they want to take over the Gaza Strip, which is such a serious war crime. And the world has not listened. Right now, people are more and more waking up, but at what cost? What is happening is, of course, an attack on Palestinians, the Palestinian identity, and the Palestinian nation, and all the countless of people whose suffering is being reduced to numbers and UN resolutions. This is also an attack on humanity, on international law, on every sense of humanity we have left. And that is a huge, huge risk, of course.
Yeah, so that's Greta Thunberg there speaking. And I know people have, some people find Greta annoying at times. But again, like I said, this isn't something that she has to do. If she wanted to, she could kind of just, fade into the background, write a couple of books, make a lot of money, and just keep it moving. But she is willing to get out there and to fight in some way, shape, or form. So I think this is something that's important to be said. I have to tell you guys, it is very disturbing how some people in the world are just turning the blind eye like this isn't even happening. But I think that this response from Italy and Spain really does say something. Now, I have to be honest with you. Out of all the countries, I did not expect Italy and Spain to act. I just didn't, So I'm still kind of surprised by that. But these are countries that are allies of the United States, and they are pushing back against Israel. And that doesn't look good for the U.S. Now, I'm telling you this because I did see that earlier today, Donald Trump said that he met with Arab leaders, and he said that they have outlined, I think it's a 21 point or 12 point plan. I think it's 21 point plan to bring this to an end. Now, I don't get excited about that because the reality is Israel is going to do whatever it wants to do. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump has reached some type of agreement with the Arab leaders. Israel doesn't care. They'll do whatever they want. Now, what is interesting, though, is that one of the statements that Donald Trump made is that Israel will not be allowed to annex the West Bank. Apparently, that was an agreement that he made among the Arab leaders. But like I said, Israel will do what it wants. And as long as we keep giving them weapons, that's basically just like telling them do whatever you want anyway, right? So there's what is said and then there's what is done, right? So we have to look at the actions. I think that that's very important. But Spain is doing the damn thing because they decided to take a position in another way. Spain's prime minister says he will send a warship to protect Gaza aid flotilla. Yeah, so we talked about that, but also this. Spain approves total arms embargo in Israel. Let's give it up. Total, not 1%, not the most destructive arms, but total arms embargo in Israel. Out of all the countries, I got to tell you, look, no shade to the Spaniards. But I really did not expect this from Spain. Really, really didn't. Something happened. So this really does need to be applauded. The Spanish government approves a total arms embargo on Israel, part of a package of measures aimed at halting what Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez called the genocide in Gaza. The decree prohibits all exports to Israel of defense, material, and dual use products or technologies. Highlight this. This is very important. When we talk about an arms embargo to Israel, I'm not just talking about weapons. Spain also mentioned the technologies. That is very key. Remember, there is technology that is being used by Israel to help them target civilians in Gaza. So this is big, like for Spain. It also goes on to say, and the import of such equipment to Spain, Economy Minister Carlos Cuerpo says at the news conference. It also blocks requests for the transit of aircraft fuel with potential military applications and bans imports of products originating from Israeli settlements in the West Bank, including their advertising. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what every country should be doing. We are going to drop the beat for Spain. Dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat in the street. Woo! Let's give it up for Spain. I don't usually drop the beat so soon, but this is what every country should be doing. Israel, you are in trouble. Now, I say that two things can be true. That's the theme here, right? So here's the thing. It can be true that Italy sending the Navy ship to try to help the Freedom Flotilla, but it could also be true that Israel is trying, or Italy is trying to deter the Freedom Flotilla in a way, right? That's why they said, give the supplies to us and we'll give them to the Catholic Church and they'll take care of them, right? Spain, on the other hand, is taking an even more bold position, not just sending the warship, but also the arms embargo. We got to pay attention to this, folks. Hey, some of these other countries are like, the U.S. isn't going to do anything. We've had enough. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Spain in the house. Hey, hey, hey. All right. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Don't forget September 9th email, Sab, Earl, and Ellen waiting. I will check. I have a lot of emails, but thank you for the reminder. Thank you, Ken. I hated Care Bears. Why? Why? I guess guys didn't really like them. Let's give a shout out here to Michelle Brown for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Michelle a big whoop, whoop. Yeah. All right. And I think we're going to keep on keeping on. If you haven't done so, folks, smash that like button. Thank you. And we're moving on to the next story. Again, the theme is two things can be true. And I think you'll see that with this clip here. Yeah, man. So Jillian Michaels is just not having a good couple of months here, at least in a row. So for those who are not aware, Anna Kasparian, who is a co-host with Cenk Uygur at TYT, is also a part of this show called Her Take. So it's four women. One of them is Jillian Michaels, and they all get together and they have this podcast, and it's different political ideologies, and they just talk about, politics and all that type of stuff, right? So, and I guess good for Anna too, like doing something else, other than, like TYT, also trying to do something different. But the show was called Her Take, and they have times where they butt heads because it's four women with different political ideologies. And I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I don't know if any of you have ever had a workplace environment where it's all women. I have one time, never again. It was a contract position for me, admin position, and the entire department was all women. And I got to tell you, I would never do that again. Never. Not for me. Okay. No shade to, the ladies, but I can't ever do that again. But as you will see in this particular conversation. Apparently, it got so heated that Jillian Michaels just couldn't take it. She was triggered. Let's see what set things off. It started off here. They're actually talking about Charlie Kirk and the whole Israel issue combined as one. And this is them here at the bottom right-hand corner, and they are watching what Patrick David says here on PBD podcast. And then they start to discuss it. And I just want to show you how crazy this gets.
The journalist behind the report accusing Bibi of offering $150 million is Max Blumenthal, a man who used to work for the Iran-backed newspaper Al Akbar in Beirut and contributed to Al Jazeera.
Is, yeah. I mean,
why is it every time we track down a lie, we end up finding people connected to Qatar or Iran?
There's no proof
behind
this ever happened.
So,
none.
Wait, how does that debunk the fact that
he just read it?
Where's your proof that $150 million was offered from Bibi Netanyahu?
Pause. Right out the gate, Jillian is very defensive. Now, you know, we didn't had some things to say about Jillian before on the show. It comes across to me that she's very pro-Israel, but she just comes out the gate pretty defensive. I'm like, yeah, like what is happening here? Okay. So of course she comes in and wants to defend or whatever. The little smear there that they gave about Max Blumenthal, they've tried to do this a lot where they're like, oh, these journalists, they used to work for Iran or da-da-da-da. And doesn't even necessarily mean that they worked for Iran. But what they'll do is like, if you make an appearance like on Press TV, for example, okay, Press TV is in Iran. So what other podcasters, especially those that are pro-Israel, have done before in the past is they've kind of been known to smear people who go on Press TV. Because they're like, oh, that person was on Press TV. That's Iran state media. And then they'll even go as far as to say that you worked for them, right? And sometimes it's simply just writing articles. When people are independent journalists and they're on their own, they're trying to get work where they can, right? So sometimes maybe he wrote articles for them or something. So what? What does that have to do with Israel's genocide? What does that have to do with Charlie Kirk not taking Benjamin Netanyahu money? So do you see how they mix these things all in together? Back to her take. Now, Jillian is upset because she's like, whoa. Where's the proof that he turned down $150,000? She comes out hot right out the gate, fam.
No, I'm referring.
Where is the proof?
Please do not get angry.
No, because I didn't want to cover this and you guys insisted. And I told you, you cover this shit, I'm going to rip you apart. Where?
Okay, pause right here. Why did she not want to cover it? Because it's negativity about Israel. That's why she didn't want to cover it. The woman that she is speaking to, Lindy Lee, whatever, this woman was a part of like the Democratic Party at one point, worked with the Democratic Party very well. She was one of the people that smeared Bernie Sanders supporters, by the way. I don't know if everybody remembers this. She was one of the people that was doing that. And then apparently, I guess she had some disagreements under the Biden administration. She decided to split. And then she's been going on show after show since then, talking about all these things that were happening, I guess, behind the scenes with the Democratic Party. That's where she comes from. Okay. And just like that, she gets to be a part of this project, this Her Take project here with Jillian Michaels and Anna Kasparian. I forget the other woman's name. But she didn't want to talk about it because it has to deal with Israel. Yikes.
Where is the proof?
We're not saying that it
Netanyahu
We're really
offered
not
Charlie
saying that it
$150 million.
Jillian,
okay, so we're not. So
what we're reporting on is
now
people in the marketplace, what they're saying. This is a discussion that's happening literally everywhere. We would be remiss if we didn't cover it to debunk it.
This conversation.
It's
over a week.
It's still pretty prevalent.
Is a week old.
It's still going on, Jillian.
Okay, well, nevertheless, where is the proof that actually
Jillian,
happened?
I just said, according to this guy's reporting, he was offered $150 million.
Okay,
that was also corroborated by Candace.
It was corroborated by Candace, and not only that, by Nick.
And also
because that's, listen, I like Candace. She has, people from his own team have said he has not seen her in years.
And yet last year they were on tour together. Last year they were on tour together. He bumped that instantly.
And this is why I don't want to work with only women. This is and I've been there before. I don't know. Maybe it's because I kind of grew up as a tomboy or whatever. I just found guys to be much more, I don't know, palatable, right? Like, I ain't got to deal with all this. Guys just say what's on their mind. They get it out there and they keep it moving. That works great for me because I'm very direct. All this, I'm not trying to deal with all that. I just can't. I can't. Right? So listen, when someone is a source and they are an anonymous source, which a lot of times they are, obviously they are not going to say, okay, well, this is my source. This is the person who gave me this information. So obviously Max is not going to do that. The question is, though, why is Jillian so triggered? Why does this woman just did that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't.
That completely be both.
Last time they've been on camera together was 2023.
No, it was last year. They have a
Andrew,
talk
that
person
guy
together.
was
Like,
like,
So
guys,
everybody
let's
on
calm
his
down.
team
Let's just calm down
has
for a second.
subsequently said this is not true.
No, they
His
never,
pastor,
they actually,
Colvin,
they
Eric Bolling, all of them are like, yeah.
Okay, Eric Bolling thought that he had 2 daughters. Okay, so I'm not going to.
Okay, Andrew Colvin. The narrative is not true. Charlie has a cordial relationship with Ackman. There's no black woman, no intervention. Nothing like what Candace is suggesting.
That same Andrew said that Candace and Charlie remain friends. I just want to make sure.
He's saying this is not true.
But they were literally.
So she is trying to explain to Jillian, after Jillian said that Candace and Charlie haven't been friends for years, she's trying to explain to Jillian that Andrew, who was Charlie's friend, said they have been friends. So she's just trying to correct her here, right? But this is what happens when you're so ready to just go, right? Soon as someone says something negative about Israel, here comes Jillian. The same Jillian who had all these things to say. Oh, but slavery was just the blah, blah, blah. But you say something negative about Israel and she's ready to fight you, fam. There is something wrong with this woman.
Touring together last year. Nothing like what Candace is suggesting. What does it have to do with their friendship?
What does it have to do with you?
What does that have to do with their friendship? He's saying what Candace is suggesting.
I can't engage with you if you don't.
He's saying what Candace is suggesting is not true.
He's talking about her suggesting Israel killed him. We're talking about 100. Please do not conflate the two.
Okay. Well, unilaterally across the board now, we've got multiple accusations that all pile up to the same exact.
No, I think it's the furries. It's the furries. I think it's the furries. But a lot of people.
I don't know, and I don't look.
For those who are saying
evidence to suggest none.
So you're saying,
guys, can we stop for a second? This is ridiculous.
This is absurd. Like, this whole thing is ridiculous. There are two things being conflated right now. There are conspiracy theorists who think Israel killed Charlie Kirk. They have yet to provide a shred of evidence proving that. Done. End
We're
of
not
story.
talking about that.
I am talking about something entirely different.
You were talking about that.
No, we're not. Hold on. Let me finish my fucking.
Again, this is why. This is why I prefer to hang out with the dudes, right? So here's the thing. Two things can be true, right? So people can think or can feel or believe that Israel had something to do with this. Some of you feel that way. We've discussed that before on the show. That doesn't necessarily make them a conspiracy theorist. You're allowed to think or believe something, right? The other part where they say, well, there's no evidence, there doesn't necessarily have to be evidence present for you to believe something. I'll use a perfect example. There are thousands and thousands of Americans that go to church every Sunday and believe in Jesus Christ. Thousands of them. But they can't see Jesus Christ. They can't touch Jesus Christ. They can't feel Jesus. Well, maybe inside you could say you can. But do you see what I'm saying? There's no physical evidence that they can tangibly hold and grab and say that Jesus is here. But you believe it. So I guess I just don't understand, like, why it's so difficult for Jillian, of all people, to believe that, right? So Jillian can have an issue with the article. Maybe she disagrees. Maybe she's like, well, I don't think that's true. That's fine. You can feel that way. But the amount of hostility that she had right off the bat, that tells me something deeper. That tells me something else about Jillian. Now, Anna is trying to finish her point here.
No, and I don't look.
There's
for those who are
zero
saying
evidence to suggest none.
Okay, you're saying, guys, can we just stop for a second? This is ridiculous.
This is absurd.
Like, this whole thing is ridiculous. There are two things being conflated right now. There are conspiracy theorists who think Israel killed Charlie Kirk. They have yet to provide a shred of evidence proving that. Done. End of story.
We're not talking about that.
I am talking about something entirely different.
You were talking about that.
No, we're not. Hold on.
Oh, you
Let
were
me
talking
finish
about
my
that.
fucking thought. Okay? The real issue here is that before most people even knew that Charlie Kirk was dead, you have Netanyahu giving multiple interviews talking about how, using the fucking moment for his own political purposes, like the fucking ghoul that he is. Let me
So here's the thing. Two things can be true at the same time. What they were talking about in the beginning was not taking the money from Netanyahu, that he was offered money from Netanyahu. Okay. That's what that was about. And then it kind of spiraled into this whole thing. So it's like, it could be true that Israel did not have anything to do with the death of Charlie Kirk. It could also be true that maybe Israel did have something to do with that. But it can also be true, and it is true, that Benjamin Netanyahu jumped on corporate news right after Charlie Kirk died and started doing like this media tour of Israel had nothing to do with this. Hello? Very weird. Very, very weird. Also very weird that I told you before that he was so invested in an American podcaster. Why is the leader of another country going on to Western news to talk about a letter that was written to him from Charlie Kirk, which he does not show you, jumps out front and says Israel didn't have anything to do with it? That is weird and that is bizarre. So two things can be true at the same time. Yeah, Netanyahu's behavior has been weird and questionable around this particular situation. And yes, true that there's no evidence that has been presented, no physical evidence that has been presented that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. So two things can be true at the same time. But it seems like Jillian seems to be focused on, well, they mentioned that he denied money from Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, that can also be true. All three of these things can be true at the same time. And that's the problem. The problem is, it seems like a lot of times, especially in these spaces, it seems like everything has to be either this way or that way. And there's no in between. Or there's no two things can be true at the same time. And it seems like to me, I think that's what they're trying to explain to Jillian, if she would just calm down. And she doesn't seem to want to hear it. And that's why I think this is why Anna is so upset.
They have yet to provide a shred of evidence proving that. Done. End of story.
We're not talking about that.
I am talking about something entirely different.
About that.
We're not. Hold on. Let me finish my fucking thought. Okay? The real issue here is that before most people even knew that Charlie Kirk was dead, you have Netanyahu giving multiple interviews talking about how, using the fucking moment for his own political purposes, like the fucking ghoul that he is. Let me finish my point.
Him killing Charlie Kirk.
Did I not just said that? I literally
so now we're just going to make
let me finish my point, Jillian, because none of us can finish the damn point without someone else jumping down your throat. I don't think that Israel killed him because there's no evidence of that. But I had a problem with Netanyahu exploiting an assassination in this country for his own political means and purposes and lying about the nature of his relationship with Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk didn't like Netanyahu, just like any warm-blooded American shouldn't. Netanyahu is a bad guy. And he wanted to make it seem like, no, we were all great. We were good. We had a great relationship. Little did we know behind the scenes, there was a lot of pressure toward
ends up being about how do we bash Israel. This is not for me. I am not interested in this.
Okay,
I love
I
you
know.
guys.
I'm sorry. Let's be good. Let's be good about precious Israel. Let the country committing a genocide. Yeah. Okay.
Zero. I think you guys are great. I fundamentally disagree with you about like every show doing this. I'm sorry.
Cool. So can we continue the conversation?
Yeah. Let's.
Okay.
Bye, Felicia. We gotta drop the pressure beat. I'm sorry.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give them a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. A moment can live on forever.
A moment can live on forever. Shout out to Nick Caution. I wanted to say she walked away. She says she can't do it.
Hey.
You wanted to do it anyway.
Finish the last topic.
All right.
All right.
Wow. Okay, guys. So, again, to clarify, I don't think Israel did it. And you know, want to know what's crazy is the person who is labeled the #1 anti-Semite out there, who has been anti-Semitic for the last 10 years, Nicholas Fuentes, has come out and said there is no evidence that suggests that Israel did it. And that's actually what I was literally just about to show.
No one on the show is saying that.
We can play that, please, really, guys. Thank you.
They say
so. She didn't come back. Jillian did not come back. Jillian was like, I got to get up out of here, fam. You guys are talking about Israel, so I got to go. Like just watch this.
Yeah. Okay.
Zero. I think you guys are great. I fundamentally disagree with you about like every show doing this. I'm sorry.
Cool. So can we continue?
I think you guys are great, but I fundamentally disagree with you, so I have to leave. Isn't the whole point of this show supposed to be about 4 women, different political views, different political ideologies coming together to have these conversations? I think it's supposed to be like, you know, their version of The View, or maybe how they wish The View would be. And Jillian is out. Now, why is this important? You see how heated she was when the conversation is about Israel? Okay. Let me take you back to what she said just a couple weeks ago. Remember this?
He's not whitewashing slavery. So he's not? He's not. No, okay. He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you
can't tie slavery.
Let's talk about the fact.
I mean, slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were
Do you know
the slave
who
owners.
was the first race to try to end slavery? Well, what's controversial?
I'm very surprised.
What was interesting about this part, number one, we debunked, when we covered the story, we debunked the numbers. She was wrong about the 2%. Again, not knowing what the hell she's talking about. Stick to fitness. Anyhow, what was interesting about this is, do you see how angered she was when Israel was even just mentioned, right? That Charlie Kirk turned down money from Benjamin Netanyahu, as was reported by the Gray Zone, right? You see how angry she got? No one on that panel said that Israel killed Charlie. No one on, not one of those women said that. But she just couldn't take it. But on this panel, imagine if all of them that were sitting at that table, imagine if they would have reacted the same way that Jillian did after the comment that she made about slavery. Only less than 2% of the population, so which that was wrong. You see the difference? It's like she can dish it, but she can't take it. Now, I'm sitting here and I'm like, if there's something to be offended about, it was the way that she tried to downplay slavery. But she was more outraged by someone just simply mentioning that the Gray Zone article had a source that said Charlie Kirk turned down that money from Benjamin Netanyahu. That is a no-go for her. But not this. Jillian Michaels has an adopted Black daughter. Actually, she's from Haiti. And Haiti had a slave rebellion. You know, it just, you know, I don't, and I told you this, I said this why I can't, not with the women, not with the women. No. And it's like, I have female friends, but I just, you know, every now and then, like I guys keep me saying, Men, do you know this? Like, you keep me sane. Because if I just want to talk about sports, I can just sit down and just talk about the game. Not all this other stuff, not who's dating who. I can watch the Patriots play the Kansas City Chiefs and not get into the Taylor Swift is engaged to this guy and there she is in the stands. And did you know that they were out at this place last week? No, I just want to watch the game. I just don't have time. I just don't have time for it. So if you can do that, kudos to you. Maybe you could teach me something for the women who are watching. Maybe you can teach me something. I don't know. I'm pretty direct, and that might rub some people the wrong way. I'm pretty direct. But yeah, I just don't have time for all that, But the way that they were talking over each other like that, and then the scream is like, I just can't take this. I'm out. I don't know. Yeah. It's just interesting. It's interesting. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat, ladies and gents. EMK said, Sabby is right, be direct. I'm very direct, and I don't know. I guess it rubs some people the wrong way. I've tried to work on that. But like if you come to me and you just ask me a question and you say, hey, do you want the Cheetos? You want some of these Cheetos? No. And some people hear that and they're like, what's up with that? Like, it's a yes or no question. The answer for me is no. I'm not going to give you a story about the damn Cheetos. Thank you for a super chat, Kenman. Jillian Michaels is a smoke show. Oh, Kenman got the feels. V says, I remember when Jillian was an exercise guru. Yeah, she was on The Biggest Loser. Beatrice says, I'm with you on that. I also grew up with 4 brothers, and I know about how much easier it is to be direct. Yeah. Angelique says, women can be catty. I say this as a former assistant teacher. Thank you, Kinman. The View with hotties. You guys are so mean. FM said The View from the trailer. Skylar. Also, isn't it weird that Charlie Kirk, with Charlie Kirk, there was no statement or press conference from the hospital after Charlie Kirk died? Did he get taken by ambulance or private transport? It's all weird. From what I saw, he was put in a car. I didn't see an ambulance. If someone else has other footage or whatever, feel free to send it to me. Thank you, Dr. Grumble. Jillian mentioned on James Lee's podcast released today that her take is in the PBD network. She's clearly afraid of losing that Zio dollar. Ooh. Didn't know that one. Thank you, Measured Man. Not Little Miss Slavery exit stage. Shout out to Clarissa Palmore for being a member for 5 months. Jillian is auditioning for MAGA. And shout out to Potato Gun Camper for becoming a Sabby member. Give Potato Gun a big whoop whoop. And thank you, Troy. Jillian know about Israel's practices and she got scared. Yeah, that's crazy, crazy stuff. Let's get the comment on Rumble. All right. Aye. Thank you, Mark, for the Rumble rant. Sabby, when I pulled a prank in school, the other kids told the teacher Pugsley's didn't do it. Pugliese didn't do it. Interesting. I don't know if that's supposed to be a joke or not. Maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe. Okie dokie. Let's go ahead to the next story. Ladies and gents, again, the theme tonight is 2 things can be true. And we're going to do a deep dive into why the Democratic Party failed. So get comfortable for this one. If you haven't done so, smash that like button and we're going to keep it moving and grooving. Here we go. The Democratic Party has failed. And I think before presidential election really kind of sounds the alarm for that, but it was coming. But I want to explain to you why the Democratic Party has failed. And I don't even know if there's a comeback for the Democratic Party, but I want to explain to you why it has failed. And we're going to go through 2 phases. The first phase is going to be the blackface in high place. And the second phase is going to be how the Democrats did not take tips from what the Republican Party was doing that actually worked. Let's start with the first one. The Democratic Party knows that they can not win without the Black vote. They need the Black vote in order to win. But over the years, I found that I think Democrats started to pay attention to the fact that Black voters were starting to actually ask for something. Uh-oh. Thought they were just fine not being Republicans. And so the Democratic Party decided that they had to do something to ensure that Black voters would remain in the Democratic Party, and also that younger Black voters eventually would come towards the Democratic Party. In other words, trying to find ways to increase the Black voter base. And that's where the Black faces in high places come in. And I don't think there was anyone who did this better than Barack Obama. Barack Obama, he was able to really garner the Black vote. Barack Obama has the highest support from Black voters than any other president that I've seen in my lifetime. Joe Biden doesn't have the number of Black votes as Obama. Obama first election term, it says he has 98% of the Black vote. Hillary Clinton didn't accomplish that, and Kamala Harris didn't accomplish that. So it all started with this guy. Remember this guy? Remember how he told you, yes, we can?
Told we're not ready, or that we shouldn't try, or that we can't. Generations of Americans have responded with a simple creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
But there was just one problem. We didn't. Barack Obama was the first Black face in high place with the Democratic Party that really captured my attention. And during that time, I was very excited about Barack Obama. I really believed, yes, we can. I really believed in hope and change. This phase for the Democratic Party in 2008, it worked very, very well. But there was just one problem. Barack Obama didn't actually want to change anything. Barack Obama didn't actually implement or care to implement policy that would greatly improve the lives of Black Americans or working class white Americans either. Barack Obama ran on what we would call a lighter version of a Bernie Sanders campaign package. He also supported healthcare for everyone. In other words, he kind of ran on a populist message, and that's what attracted a lot of people. But once Barack Obama won, he turned out to be just like all the ones that came before him. He was bowing down to Wall Street, corporate America, military-industrial complex. When Barack Obama was running, he said that we need to stop these conflicts in the Middle East. But during his presidency, he continued to bomb brown people in the Middle East and Africa and abroad. Barack Obama was very charismatic. A lot of people liked him. He got the youth vote. He got the Black vote. For the Democratic Party, he was a gem. But things changed. And I would say that it is because of the disappointment of Barack Obama that this is the reason why the Democratic Party is struggling to hang on today, not just with Black voters, but with their base in general. Remember this? This was Barack Obama and John McCain discussing healthcare.
Quick discussion. Is healthcare in America a privilege, a right, or a responsibility? Privilege, right, and responsibility.
Well,
Start with that.
I think it should be a right for every American. In a country as wealthy as ours, for us to have people who are going bankrupt because they can't pay their medical bills. For my mother to die of cancer at the age of 53 and have to spend the last months of her life in a hospital room arguing with insurance companies because they're saying that this may be a pre-existing condition and they don't have to pay her treatment. There's something fundamentally wrong about that.
Ah, yes. He said all the right things, but in practice, he was just like those who came before him. And now Barack Obama did, accomplish Obamacare, but that was actually from Romney Care, which we had here in Massachusetts. It was a Heritage Foundation project. Mitt Romney had Romney Care here in Massachusetts, and Barack Obama took that and made it Obamacare. So for all the people who talk about the Heritage Foundation, you need to know that's where Obamacare actually came from. So while he told you during that debate that we needed healthcare for everyone, when it came push to shove, you got Obamacare instead. I would say it is Barack Obama that honestly is the reason why more Black people have left the Democratic Party. And there's many of us that you can talk to, and we will tell you just how excited we were about him. And then how we were just like, yeah, I don't really know, bruh. Don't really know. And that's sad. And that's sad because when Obama was in office, I want to remind you the way that he spoke to Black people, in particular at the Congressional Black Caucus. Remember this? Obama tells the CBC to stop crying. Listen to this.
I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I don't have time to complain. I'm going to press on. I expect all of you to march with me and press on. Take off your bedroom slippers. Put on your marching shoes. Shake it off. Stop complaining. Stop grumbling. Stop crying. We are going to press on. We've got work to do.
So what I found to be pretty interesting is that he said, take off your bedroom slippers. Now, that was Barack Obama speaking to the Congressional Black Caucus. Would Barack Obama say that at an AIPAC conference? If Barack Obama went to an AIPAC convention, do you think he would stand up there at that podium in front of all those Zionists and tell them to take off their slippers and tell them that they got work to do? You see, this is the failed project here. The Black faces in high spaces, high places, Black faces in high places. Because here's the thing. What the Democratic Party did is they said, well, Black people are asking for something, so we have to put people in these positions that look like them. So again, like I said, first one I remember was Barack Obama. But the problem that comes from that is that those people who are supposed to represent Black voters don't actually really do anything for Black voters. Meanwhile, under Barack Obama's presidency, there were even more reparations that were given to Holocaust survivors. Did you guys know that? Look it up. All of the things that were done. And they believed that all they had to do was give Black voters representation, and that will keep them in the party. So for me, that began with Barack Obama. Then they moved on to some of these congressional seats. In comes Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries, they tried to sell him to you in so many different ways as he's supposed to be the next Obama. At least that's what Dem leadership wants. Remember this? The moment that Hakeem Jeffries got the speakership for the House? Listen to this.
It's an honor to stand before you today.
Democrats on Wednesday unanimously elected Hakeem Jeffries to serve as the party's top leader in the House of Representatives, replacing Nancy Pelosi to become the first Black American to hold such a high-ranking position in Congress. At a news conference, the 52-year-old New Yorker acknowledged his 82-year-old predecessor, who in 2007 was the first woman to be elected House Speaker.
I also want to convey my thanks to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, an extraordinary speaker for the ages.
So do you notice what they do? First Black American Speaker of the House. And this is how they get us. And this is how they've been able to, I would say, trick some of us to continue to support the Democratic Party, even though they give us no tangibles. And over the years, I started to notice that other groups were demanding tangibles from the Democratic Party. And some of those groups were actually receiving them. The Dreamers had demands for the Obama administration. They got their demands met. Jewish Americans had demands. They get their demands met. But Black voters don't. And yet we're still beholding to this party. Now we have switched to Hakeem Jeffries to prove a point. Some of you may be wondering, well, where do they get these Black faces in high places from? Oftentimes, they start recruiting them in college. Some of them maybe even high school. And oftentimes, they have a tendency to seek them out of activist spaces. And that's exactly where they spotted Hakeem Jeffries. In fact, some of you may have seen this before if you saw my deep dive about how Hakeem Jeffries actually won that seat. But this is a picture here of Hakeem Jeffries when he was in college at Binghamton. And look at what he's wearing. Let me scroll down. This is him right here to the right. Mr. Jeffries, 1992 news conference held by the Black Student Union of Binghamton University. Hakeem Jeffries is wearing a dashiki and has a little high top fade thing going on. What the Democratic Party does is that they seek out Black activists, particularly a lot of times when they are in college, that are well-spoken, as they like to say, possibly interested in law, because that helps, especially if you want to go into Congress. Someone that also can connect with the community. Hakeem Jeffries was perfect for them. They take Black activists out of the activist space. They take off their dashiki, give them a suit and a haircut, and they mold them into what they want them to be. That's also what happened with Barack Obama. Barack Obama actually was a pro-Palestinian activist back in the day. AIPAC got a hold of him, told him to get rid of the fro, gave him a suit, and molded him into what they wanted him to be. And these are the people that they put in front of you and they tell you represents you. There is something very interesting that I have to mention about Hakeem Jeffries. When Hakeem Jeffries was running for that congressional seat, he was losing. He was losing in the polls to a gentleman by the name of Charles Barron. Charles Barron is a Black Panther, goes way back, pro-Palestinian activist. Charles Barron was beating Hakeem Jeffries in the polls. So here's what I believe happened behind the scenes. Obviously, the Democratic Party did not want someone like Charles Barron, who's a Black Panther and was pro-Palestinian movement. They did not want him in a congressional seat. That wouldn't be good for Israel. So the next thing you know, all of a sudden, David Duke, white supremacist David Duke, gives an endorsement to Charles Barron. Sound familiar? It should. He did the same thing last year to Jill Stein. I have firmly believed that David Duke has been acting as an operative for the Democratic Party to keep these types of voices out of politics. After that endorsement from David Duke, Charles Barron sank in the polls. Hakeem Jeffries rose in those polls, got into bed with AIPAC. They were behind him all the way. And that's how Hakeem Jeffries won that seat. And I'm saying this to you because I want to not discourage you, but I do want to warn you about something. Everything you see right now that's happening with Zoran Mondani, don't be surprised if something like this happens to him. Now, again, according to the polls, it looks like he's probably going to win, but don't be surprised if that happens. So they take Black people, a lot of times from the activist spaces, they mold them into what they want them to be, but they let them say a little bit of radical, rhetoric to make you think that they really want change, but they're not going to advocate for any change, especially not for you. AIPAC gets a hold of them. They make sure that their number one priority is going to be Israel and only Israel. You, meanwhile, think that they're going to go in and do something for you, but they're not. That's all a facade. Something, though, has started to change. Since Barack Obama, Black voters are waking up. I really do believe that's part of the reason. When I look at the exit polls, let's keep it real. Kamala Harris did not receive as many Black votes as Hillary, Biden, or Obama. She received the lowest amount of Black voter support. So not only are Black people leaving the Democratic Party, Black people are registering as independents. Some may have registered as Republican. I ain't heard too many that did that, so let's not go that far. But the reality is a number of Black people stayed home. That's what happens when you fool us and try to trick us into, we're going to help you and we're going to do this and I hear you and I understand you all these years. And we watch you sit back and you help do everything for Israel, everything for other groups, but nothing for us, and just tell us, well, I'm not going to only do something for you. That's the first phase. Here's another reason why the Democratic Party has failed. And yes, this has to deal with Charlie Kirk too. And some people aren't going to want to hear this, but you probably should listen up. One thing I will say is this. The Republican Party did something smart. I can acknowledge when someone did something smart, whether I agree with them or not. You know what they did? They realized that the youth vote actually matters. What do you know? You see, Charlie Kirk, from what I understand, started Turning Point USA when he was like 18 years old. Going to different colleges, talking to the youth, the young people, try to get them to, vote in the Republican Party. Who does that for the Democratic Party? Hello? Who goes around the country visiting colleges, talking to college students to recruit them for the Democratic Party, even when it's not election season? Who does that? I'll wait. No one that I know of. You see, I'm a firm believer in beating people at their own game. So if I see that my competition is doing something, I look at it and I weigh the pros and cons and I say, hey, maybe that's something we should have been doing, whether I like them or agree with them or not. But the Democratic Party made it very clear that young voters were not their priority. If we were, or if they were, I guess I'm not really a young voter anymore, if they were really their priority in 2016, they wouldn't have given Bernie Sanders primary votes to Hillary Clinton. Hello. The Democratic Party, all these years that Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA was going across the country to get votes and build up the Republican Party and to get the youth to come out and support. All these years, the Democratic Party never offered a left alternative to Charlie Kirk. And there's a reason why. I talked to my comrade, JB Font, about this. You know what JB said? And he's right. He said, well, no, they're not going to do that, because then that means that they would actually have to run on those left positions, and then they would be held accountable for it. They would actually have to deliver. Because here's the thing. If you have someone that's like a Charlie Kirk of the left going across the country to go to different colleges to try to recruit people for the Democratic Party, well, when you show up saying things like Joe Biden's the best, Joe Biden is so cool, man. Yeah, dude, he totally rocks, like Harry Sisson did. You realize in particular, that doesn't really resonate. What resonates with a lot of younger people that are more likely to vote Democrat but doesn't feel the party is far enough are those populist policies. It's things like canceling student debt, health care for everyone, helping young people find a way to get homes, things like that. I don't know, not being evicted, that kind of shit. That's what resonates with a lot of the younger people. And they never did that. And so they left that lane wide open. And Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA went and filled that lane because there was nobody else on the other side doing it. But here's my thing. All these years later, they still didn't try to do that. It's almost as if they don't really want to win. Because at the end of the day, they want to fundraise. So there is the closest thing that came to that, I would say, is Justice Democrats, which was created by Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kulinski. But that was a little bit different because that was to get candidates elected to fight against the Dem leadership and the establishment in the Democratic Party, not to go along with it. The Republican Party got behind Charlie Kirk. The Democratic Party did not get behind Justice Democrats. Why would they? They're trying to challenge us. Why would we accept them? When we look at the podcast spaces, not only did Charlie Kirk have a podcast and also was out there on the ground, and you look at all the people who actually agree with those progressive policies and support them and promote them and that populist message that have millions of subscribers. How many of those people go tour across the campuses to deliver that message to students? Does everybody see the problem? Yes, you can reach a lot of people with your podcast. But here's the thing. Everybody doesn't watch YouTube. And some people aren't politically engaged at all. And some people don't even get interested into politics until it's right before the election. That's the general election. Bernie Sanders went across the whole country, not just the swing states, and got a lot of energy and support from the youth, but then told them to go ahead and support Hillary after they cheated them. So there goes that. And that was during an election. But Charlie Kirk and Turning Point, they were going across the country doing this when it was not election season. You ain't got to like them, but they did something right. Now, why don't they do that? Why don't Democrats do that? Why don't they go to these campuses and try to get these kids? Why are they not doing that? Here's why. It's the ratchet effect. This is why Democrats fail. How you are being duped by the fake two-party system. Let me show you something. Republicans turn everything to the right. We know that. The part that a lot of people don't know and pay attention to is that Democrats block movement back to the left. Do you see how they're blocking it? This is the Democrats right here. What I'm trying to explain to you is this. The Democratic Party would rather lose to the Republican Party. They'd rather lose to Trump, lose to MAGA, than actually adopt a populist message that they actually plan to deliver on. Because you know who doesn't want that? Their donors, corporations, Wall Street, the military-industrial complex. So they would rather lose than actually deliver something to the American people. This is the problem. This is why Kamala Harris was a little shaky when she's like, oh yeah, I endorse Zoran, but there are other people out there running. This is why they all ganged up on Bernie Sanders. Eric, can we go to the next one for Type VNC? Deep dive here we're doing, folks. This is why they all ganged up on it. Now, and I showed you how Hakeem was, right? This just proves my point. Why they would rather let it go to the right than actually embrace something on the left. Listen to this.
Or have you led that you are most proud of, or that you seek to sort of emulate on a day-to-day basis?
Well, House and Senate Democrats stood shoulder to shoulder together in strong opposition, in fact, in unified opposition to the one big ugly bill.
Or have you?
Did everybody hear that? So again, they will even come together for something that the guy who they said was Hitler, Donald Trump, wants. Then they will come together for something that the real left wants. And if you haven't heard this, if you're new to this channel, you've never heard this before, the Democratic Party is not left. What you have are two right-wing parties. And both of those parties maintain their power in that space. And both of them prevent people from actually going to the left. The Democratic Party, Hakeem Jeffries won't even endorse Zoran Mandami. And look, I got my critiques of Zoran because he's, he wavering on some things. But they won't even endorse the nominee. They fight harder against people in their own party who are to the real left than they do against Donald Trump. I'm not making it up. It's all in front of you. These are the things that we fail to see. Even Bernie Sanders explained it so well, why people vote for Donald Trump.
So many people who are less well off in your country voted and will probably vote again for Donald Trump.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because they are looking at the government, they're looking at the Democratic Party and saying, I can't afford health care. My kid can't afford to go to college. Everything being equal, my daughter is going to have a lower standard of living than I do. What are you doing for me? You're not doing really much. Trump is coming along. He is an atypical politician. He wants to get rid of all of that stuff. Why not? Maybe I think he's a little crazy. Maybe I don't agree with him on this, but at least not part of the old-fashioned political establishment. So that has an appeal. Bottom line here is the way to beat Trump is to say, yeah, you want change? We're going to give you change. But it's not based on racism. It's not based on xenophobia. It's a change that says we're going to create an economy for you, not just for billionaires.
Bernie Sanders understands exactly why some of the people that voted for him turned around and voted for Donald Trump. He understands exactly why Donald Trump won in 2024. Now, I take you back to 2016 because he's part to blame for this as well. For him to win the states that he won, and for the DNC, the super delegates, to give those states to Hillary Clinton. This is also why the Democratic Party has failed. You rigged the game. Just a reminder here, 2016.
This is Ray Mossholder. Bernie Sanders blew Hillary Clinton off 3 state maps tonight. Democrat caucuses in Alaska, Hawaii, and Washington state voted Bernie all the way. Just listen to these numbers. Alaska, Sanders, 81.6%. Clinton, 18.4%. Hawaii, Sanders, 70.6%. Clinton, 29.2%. Washington State, Sanders, 72.7%. Clinton, 27.1%. Now, Bernie's prediction a week ago was that since Hillary was no longer getting enough Southern black votes, he was going to win the victories in future states. And he is having the time of his life.
And unfortunately, the superdelegates took that away. Because you see, the Republican Party doesn't have to deal with superdelegates in a primary. I remember there were a number of us, we sat there and we watched them take states from that Bernie won. Like Bernie won every county in West Virginia. Superdelegate says at the DNC, we're giving it to Hillary Clinton. This is why the Democratic Party fails. The people had spoken during the primary, but they would rather have Hillary Clinton be the nominee for the party because she represents the interests of Wall Street. That's who the donors like. That's who the military industrial complex likes. I don't think she ever saw a war that she didn't like. That's who they like. That's who they want. And that ultimately led us down the path that we are in now. They would rather push Hillary, have her lose to Donald Trump, than actually play the game fair and let Bernie become the nominee, and who knows where it would have gone from there. And all this time, you see this finger pointing here of, shout out to Power to the People. Look, it's a communist dictator from both sides. You're the dictator. You're the dictator. You're the communist. You're the economist. They both work for the dictatorship of capital. But both parties use the word communist because they know that that's a scary word. Let's call them a communist. That's scary. Let's call them a socialist. That's scary. I think they're starting to realize socialist isn't as scary anymore now. That's why you hear them using communist so much more now. They both work for capital. AIPAC, Israel, Lockheed Martin, Goldman Sachs. That's who they both work for. They can't figure out other ways to get that support back. Now, the Democratic Party is looking around and they don't understand. Donald Trump is in the White House, but for some reason, the Democratic Party is not increasing in the polls. They're looking around, they're losing their minds, and they're like, how did we get here? We don't get it. Donald Trump is sinking in the polls, but then at the same time, we're not increasing. What are we doing wrong? It is a different age. It's a different generation. And these young kids today have woken up. People are paying attention. People are starting to see that you guys just run on not being Donald Trump. You guys don't offer us anything. You just tell us you're not that guy. And meanwhile, we are still struggling. We are trying to buy homes, but we can't. But you got 2 mansions. Now, you know, people are waking up because you start to see just even recently, this takes us back to Obama. Barack Obama is not being treated the way that he used to. Barack Obama is being confronted more and more.
Sir,
Please.
Sir, I'm not the president of the United States currently. So there's no point in shouting at me.
That was someone screaming about Gaza, about Palestine, right? So, how things have changed. Barack Obama was used to getting applauded as soon as he walks into a room, and now he walks into a room to speak and somebody's going to shout against him. That was not the way that it used to be. But people have woken up. And no, Barack Obama, you are not the president. But when you were president, you did bomb a hell of a lot of brown people. You did. You also had a lot of deportations. And you see, Barack Obama and them, they pretend as though these things don't exist. Now, let's keep in mind, Barack Obama has 2 young daughters, young adult women. You think that his daughters didn't say anything to him about Gaza? You think these young women in their 20s didn't say anything to their father about what's happening in Gaza? People are waking up. The Democratic Party, the Democrat leadership, they don't like that. People are waking up so much to see that Kamala Harris on this book tour. She can't get through it without somebody yelling something like this.
Your legacy is genocide. The blood of the Palestinians is on your hands. You pledged your full support for Israel while they shot babies, while they blew babies up, while they burned Palestinians alive. Your legacy is genocide. You care more about protecting an apartheid state than defending the rights of Americans. Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Because you see, next, Kamala Harris was supposed to take that mantle. She was supposed to be the next black face in a high place, and she was supposed to go on to be like the next Obama, the female version of Obama, but that didn't happen. And she don't know what to do with herself. And you see the way that people are approaching her, because as a part of the Democratic Party, you were supposed to stand for something different. You're supposed to stand for the working class people. You're supposed to be better on the social issues, especially social issues that affect marginalized communities. But when you let a genocide happen under your administration, and you lied to the American people, which has been revealed in your book with your own words, that you knew since July of 2024 that Benjamin Netanyahu did not want to end this war, yet you went around this campaign trail in this country telling people these lies of tirelessly ceasefires. You knew, but you continued to play the game. So the Democratic Party is in trouble, because the black face in high place doesn't work anymore. They're trying to find someone else to fill that spot. They thought it would be Kamala. It did not work. They think it's Hakeem. People don't like him either. His polling is really bad. People want him out of there. Now they're trying to push a Wes Moore, whoever the hell he's really supposed to be. But then he turns around and he blocks the reparations bill in his own damn state. That don't look too good. They are struggling. They would rather lose. They would rather lose than actually do what the party used to do. The party that said, let's do Social Security, let's do Medicare. And don't get it twisted. Everybody likes to praise FDR. You need to remember, FDR didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to help the people. The people rose up against him. He was pressured to do so. The people turned on him. That's why you got Social Security. That's why you got Medicaid. That's why you got the New Deal. Even though even the New Deal blocked out black people in many of those policies. They refuse to accept it, and you can see it here.
62% of the Democrats want to see the leadership of your party replaced. Do these sorts of polls make you rethink your approach at all? How do you view this?
Look at these numbers. 62% say the Democrat should replace the leaders of the party. 62% want the leaders replaced. Hakeem Jeffries is one of the leaders. He was supposed to be a star. Him and Cory Booker and fake ass Richie Torres. They were chosen and selected by the Zionists, by AIPAC, to go out there and be #1 champions for Israel while having a brown face to show to everybody in the black community. So you think somebody's in there for you. Same thing with the Congressional Black Caucus. They are Israel first. This is a bad look. This is not just against Chuck Schumer. Hakeem is leadership in the House for the Democratic Party. That's against him too. Listen to what he says.
approach at all? How do you view this?
Well, I think I understand why people all across the country, not just Democrats, are disturbed by what has been happening in this country and the extremism that has been unleashed on the American people. And we are in what I have referred to often as a more is more environment. We just have to continue to do more, to aggressively push back against the Trump administration and push back in a manner consistent with American values. More town hall meetings, more protests, more demonstrations, more speeches on the House floor, more speeches on the Senate floor, more hearings that are led by Democrats on the Hill, off the Hill, of course, more site visits throughout the country, standing up in defense of the American people, standing up in defense of law-abiding immigrant communities, standing up in defense of those who are vulnerable, pushing back against the rise of extremism in this country and the targeting of communities of color. We're in a more is more environment, and we have to continue to do more. What I will say is that in special election after special election after special election, we keep winning all over the country. Democrats are turning out in record numbers, and we're defeating Republicans across the land.
They have a problem with your leadership, Hakeem. Hakeem thinks fighting back is just continue the demonstrations, more speeches on the House floor. Because when Hakeem Jeffries talks about stopping the extremism, he's not just talking about extremism on the right. He's also talking about extremism on the left. That's why they fight harder against people to their left than they do against people to their right. That's why he can go along with Donald Trump's spending bill, because they both protect the status quo. Also, AIPAC kind of pushing him along the way too. The Democratic Party, in short, has failed because the black faces in high spaces no longer works anymore. And two, the Democratic Party never gave a Democrat response to the Charlie Kirk factor. They never did it. They don't care. They don't care about the youth vote. It's funny, that same youth vote helped Donald Trump win in 2024. He gained youth support. So apparently what Charlie Kirk was doing was working. And three, the Democratic Party doesn't actually want to do anything for the people. And that is why you don't see them fighting. That's why. Because in order to fight Donald Trump, you have to fight him with populism. You have to fight him with delivering for the working class people. And the Democratic Party isn't actually going to do that. So they pretend to fight Donald Trump by writing these long ass letters that nobody's going to read, including me, but actively working behind the scenes to stop people who are to their left. Two things can be true at the same time. It can be true that Biden stayed in the race too long. I agree that I think that's an issue. Kamala didn't have a lot of time. I agree with that. I also think she was a bad candidate. But it can also be true that the Democratic Party would rather run to the right than embrace a left populist movement because their donors don't want it, Israel doesn't want it, and the military industrial complex doesn't run it. You basically have two right-wing parties. Stop letting people tell you that the Democratic Party is left. It's not. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Hey. Thank you, Willis, for the super chat. Sadly, Black Americans keep trying to venerate DEMS. Yeah, buddy. Thank you, DeAndre. The Democrats thought they had the new LBJ situation where they could coast on Obama's charm and charisma and do nothing for Black folks for another 50 years. Exactly. That's right. Thank you, Miss Natty. So how do you think Black folks will fare now? Same way we've been faring, taking each day at a time. I mean, that's the thing, you know? I think the worst thing that happened, one of the worst things that happened economically under the Biden administration is when they cut that the child tax credit, when they stopped that short. Also, when they were talking about the poverty situation, they said, "Oh, we cut child poverty in half." Guys, we give money to Israel. We about to give money apparently to Argentina. We could cut all child poverty in the United States. Thank you, Flower Bro. Don't give those Democrats hints, Sabby. They would never take my advice. Thank you, Troy. Whitney, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Thank you, Whis 313. I was done with the DNC when Obama drank that fake water to assure the residents of Flint, Michigan that water is clean. Thank you, Starch Manning. Stephen Miller, Pee Wee German. Thank you, GGB, for the super sticker. Thank you, Roger. Dems depended on fear of red votes. I think it means red voters letting go of fear. And thank you for this one. And hope for Dems as well. Thank you, Karina. Sabrina bringing it home, preaching and teaching. Thank you for the lesson. You are welcome. Thank you, Starch Manning. Parliamentarian. Thank you, Russ. Sabby, you're right on point. Washington, wake up. The game over. Mic drop. Enough said. And thank you, Measured Man. Can Hakeem respond in specific, measurable, attainable result, smart format? He's like a robot. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to pretend like I know anyway. Let's get the comment on the Rumble rant, and then we'll keep it going. All right. Thank you, Mark. Sabby, I bailed on the Dems in 2016. I heard in a news story that I was one of 14 million at that time. Yeah, man. And thank you for the tip on Rockfin Dave. Sorry, not too much money to give right now, but for congratulations and drop the beat. Congratulations on all your success, Sabby and Eric. Thank you. And thank you, Roger. Sabby, understand this is our community's fault. Democrats were only following what boomer and silent mature generation of our community and half of my Gen X was demanding. Representation. Why? Because in the past, where we had freedmen Congress members who were of a better stock, they actually pushed some legislation for the freedmen community. This was that was just automatic. So it was always assumed that tradition would pass on. Sabrina, have you noticed that it wasn't until Bernie came along that he was the first politician that we know that talked not only about what the problem is, but about what policy solutions we must put forth? Yeah. Can you find any footage where Obama actually said, I'm going to do this specific policy solution, that policy-based solution, so on and so forth? No. That's a good point. And thank you for this. There's news footage of when during that election to gain that open seat that Jeffries and Barron were running for, where the entire Democratic Party in New York City mobilized, held press conferences, and banged on Barron for being anti-Semitic, with retiring Congressman Jerry Nadler at the helm. Remember when South Carolina Congressman Joe Wilson yelled, "You lie," to Obama? Barron did that every year to Cuomo at State of State. Yeah. Eric says Obama said he would make codifying Roe a priority. That's right. That was the one promise he did make. That's right. Okay, let's keep it moving and grooving, folks. Okay, guys, quick announcement, and we'll continue on with the other stories. Just want to remind you about the documentary that's going to be coming out in November. We do have a trailer to show you guys. We're almost at our goal for a documentary fundraiser. It's called Remove Black Erasure in Boston. So this is a documentary I've been making for those who don't know. Our goal is 10,000. We're at 9,826. So we're almost there. And the fundraising goes to my editor, who is doing a really great job on this. Eric, can you share that link for people if they want to donate? Here is the trailer. I'll show you really quickly and we'll keep it moving. Yes, Boston is home to winning sports teams and elite universities. But some might say that there are two Bostons.
If you look at City Hall, no one's talking about that specific racial and historical component that Black people are the ones that are being removed.
There's a huge significant difference in lived experiences, and we know this because of the wealth report. We're at $8.
This whole plan of gentrification isn't a new concept. In every city you go into in the Northeast, they kept moving Black people out of the inner city. So it's a plan. It's been in place for a long time.
While the displacement isn't as bad as 1963, it hasn't gotten much better now.
It's by design that they've created spaces where we are no longer seen anymore. They're wiping us out one community at a time, and they're getting away with it. This is gentrification. Franklin Park has been a place where we have built community, and all these things are at risk.
Why is the mayor willing to throw herself on this sword, do or die, for this project? It's not about soccer. It's about the additional profits that can be made in this entertainment complex. It's a disrespect that you would take public parkland and then give it to a private group to control it. And this project is Emmett Till's mama pulling back a curtain. And if people don't look at what's behind that curtain, it's coming to them.
All right, that's the trailer there, folks. So, and we're almost done with it. Eric, can you put the link to that in the chat for the documentary fundraiser? Oh, thank you so much. Thanks, Eric. We are almost done. We are now moving on to lower thirds, which makes me excited. I'm done with all the B-roll. That's what really matters. That was a lot of work. That was a lot of work. Man, I was hopping around Boston, parking my car to the side, putting on my four-way flashers and like just getting footage really quick, then jumping back in my car so I don't have to pay for parking. Come ride with me one day, guys. Come ride with me. Yeah, but it's shaping up really well. Scott's been doing an amazing job. Okay, moving on to the next story, ladies and gentlemen. Two things can be true. There was an ICE shooting in Dallas, Texas. Not sure if everyone heard about this. Kash Patel is getting criticism once again for rushing to release information that apparently had not been confirmed as evidence at that point in time. Let's go ahead and get started with this right here. Shout out to Fred Wellman. I'm not a lawyer, but the head of the FBI literally tweeting pictures of unconfirmed evidence within minutes of a murder seems like the dumbest shit imaginable. And he's not joking. Kash Patel went ahead and tweeted this information out before this was even ruled as evidence. This morning, just 7 a.m. local time, an individual fired multiple rounds at the Dallas, Texas ICE facility, killing one, wounding several others before taking his own life there. FBI, DHS, ATF are on the ground with Dallas PD and state authorities. Now listen to this. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. See the picture below. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE. More updates forthcoming. So at this time, when he tweeted this, it's the picture he's referring to there. There's the anti-ICE, right? So first of all, that doesn't look like an engraving. It looks like it was written, but maybe it is. I'm not sure. But the point is, Kash Patel tweeted this information, and this was not evidence. Like, what the? This is why I say I don't know if he's even going to last through the Trump administration. Here we go again. I also find it very suspicious that there happens to be markers on these shell casings, just like there were markers on the shell casings from Charlie Kirk's shooting as well. So either this person was a copycat or something here is just very weird. There's also more, right? So a lot of people were saying that he went after ICE officers. That's actually not who was shot. Let's get into this story here. This young woman was in the car at the time waiting on her mom. Listen to this.
With my sister praying, she said.
At least 3 people shot, multiple people shot.
Police say the gunman perched on a rooftop, killed 1 detainee and wounded 2 others before taking his own life. No ICE officers were injured. DHS calling it an attack on ICE law enforcement. The FBI releasing this image of shell casings found near the shooter, engraved with the words anti-ICE. Tom speaking with the acting ICE director.
How convenient. How convenient. So again, it's like either this person is a copycat or it's just too convenient. Everybody's writing, engraving messages on shell casings now. Don't you guys find it to be very strange? Just not too long after Charlie Kirk shooting and there was engravings there. I don't know. I don't know.
There were some brave men and women on the ground that went into those vans, were pulling those detainees out while they're under fire.
And they were all shot while they were in the vehicle?
They were shot while they were in the vehicle, right. So the shooter obviously didn't know who was in the vehicle. He was just randomly shooting at windows into vehicles that he already seen down there.
The agency releasing images of bullet holes in a window and American flag inside the facility. Authorities say the gunman fired multiple rounds from the top of that building into this ICE facility a few hundred yards away.
Pause. This is what also doesn't make any sense to me. If he had anti-ICE engraved on the shell casings, why would he take the risk of just shooting inside the facility, not knowing whether or not he would actually end up hitting an ICE agent, right? Or a detainee? Why would you take that risk? Who exactly was he trying to target? Because to me, that does not make any sense. Let's go on.
Tonight, NBC News has learned the shooter is 29-year-old Joshua John, according to multiple senior law enforcement officials. John's brother described him to NBC News as unique without elaborating, saying he didn't have strong feelings about ICE as far as I knew, and that he was not a marksman, that's for sure. It comes as DHS says there's been a 1,000% increase in violence against ICE officers.
Everybody see what's happening here, right? Margatina says another crazy person, ? I don't know. But the narrative around this is just very bizarre, right? So there's something else I want to show you here as well. 29-year-old would just give their whole life away like that for this. Why would you even take that chance? So the Dallas shooting suspect left anti-ICE notes, but wasn't part of any specific group. This is coming from the officials. Goes on to say here, authorities said on Thursday, that the ICE detention facility in Texas, it said it was definitely anti-ICE, but said that they did not find evidence that the suspect was a member of any specific group or entity, nor did he mention any specific government agency other than ICE. But people came to all these conclusions. Like I watched this unfold yesterday and people were saying, oh, he's part of that group. He's part of this group, part of that group. You don't know that. But again, this speaks to the lack of transparency from the FBI director, from Kash Patel. Again, just putting things out there before it was even classified as evidence. What are you doing? Goes on to say here, the shooting described by the FBI as coming after a high degree of, they said it was a high degree of planning. It occurred early Wednesday at a facility in Dallas with a spray of bullets fired from a rooftop, hitting a building and an ICE transportation van, killing one ICE detainee who was inside the vehicle and badly injuring 2 others. So none of the ICE agents were shot. The people who were shot were detainees. One of them died, the other 2 injured. So where people say, well, maybe the officer said, oh, he was just shooting anywhere. He don't know who's, but why would you take that chance? If you're anti-ICE, if you have a problem with ICE officers, why would you take the risk of just firing inside of a building, not knowing if you're going to hit officers or detainees. Two of them died now. Miranda said, I think two died, Sabby. Oh boy. But does anybody understand this? It goes on to say here, notably, these loose notes included a game plan of the attack and target areas at the ICE facility. He called the ICE employees people showing up to collect a dirty paycheck, but he did not shoot any ICE employees. So this story to me is it's just weird. Larson said that the suspect wrote that he intended to maximize lethality against ICE personnel and to maximize property damage at the facility, and said that it seems that he did not intend to kill the detainees or harm them. It's clear from these notes that he was targeting ICE agents and ICE personnel. Right. But then why would you take that risk if that were the case? Why would you take that risk not knowing who you were actually shooting at? It's just very weird. This is one of those ones where I'm just kind of, where is all this coming from all of a sudden? All of a sudden, all these shootings have things engraved on the shell casings. And we can go back to that, and you guys can let me know if you think it's actually engraved, because I don't know. I mean, to me, it looks like it was written on there. I don't know. And it's only on this one, not on the others. Like, it's like right there. It's just a lot of things to me just are not passing the smell test these days. And it's just so weird. How do we know that wasn't done after the fact? We just don't know. I just don't trust any of these people. I just don't. Now, there's a couple more details here that was reported also earlier today.
Good morning, Peyton.
Yes, good morning. Investigators are now combing through evidence, multiple properties, and any online profiles associating with 29-year-old Joshua Yon. Here's what we know so far. Federal investigators searched at least 2 homes connected to the reported sniper. Yon was linked to a home in Durant, Oklahoma, and a home in Fairview, which is in Collin County here in Texas. Sky 4 video shows the feds surrounding a cul-de-sac and going in and out of a home in Fairview on Wednesday while gathering evidence. Now, you could see investigators there taking boxes out of one of the homes in Fairview. Neighbors say they saw federal agents swarming the home.
Like I said, very sweet family, so that was really, really surprising to hear.
You think just how crazy that is and how close it is to home now.
Yon does not appear to have a long criminal history. Court records show he hasn't been convicted of a violent crime, but was arrested in 2015 for marijuana possession in Collin County. A spokesperson
Oh no, not the weed.
for Collin College in McKinney, Texas, confirmed Yon studied at the school at various times between 2013 and 2018. Now, his employment record isn't consistent either. A former employer confirms that he did work for a Texas-based solar company for a short period of time and also traveled cross-country to work for a cannabis company for a period of time as well. Back to you.
And Peyton, what have we learned about his online footprint here? That is something in situations like this, we know that investigators look at very closely. So what do we know and kind of what's still left to figure out at this point?
Yeah, of course. Well, there are reports that he did have an online presence. It isn't clear if there were any political posts. The New York Times did report that he had multiple Reddit accounts and posted about cars, cannabis, and video games. So far, that is all we know about his online presence. I do want to say that there is a large police presence that's been here all morning at the ICE facility that we've been at. So we're still waiting for an update on information in that investigation.
He talked about cars, weed, and video games. I don't know what's going on, guys. I don't know what is up around these here parts, but it's just strange. All of this to me is just strange. I don't know. Eric, we can go to the next part for tight VNC. Someone was asking me what are lower thirds. Lower thirds are the description in the bottom lower corner of the screen. So like if you ever watch a documentary and someone's talking, it says their name and their title underneath. Those are the lower thirds. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the story. I don't know what's going on with the story. Like I said, it could be two things can be true. It could be that he was a copycat, but it could also be that didn't look like an engraving to me. I'm sorry. Like that looks like it was written with a marker. So it could be that this guy could have done it, could be a copycat, but it also could be that Kash Patel once again jumped the gun. And that's the thing. What FBI director posts these things on Twitter before that was even entered as evidence? Ay. Crazy times. Shout out to Anthony Zinkus, who's been Professor Zinkus, been a member for 1 month. Why does Hakeem Jeffries look like an MK Ultra victim? I don't know. Thank you, Covert White Rabbit. Why did the anti-ICE guy shoot the prisoners? That's what I'm saying. It just don't make sense to me. Thank you, Joan. Shout out to Joan for being a member for 11 months. It's the age of AI psyops. First Amendment said weed smoker would change mind and fall asleep. Hey, I could see that. Okay, let's move on to the next story, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't done so, go ahead and smash that like button. Thank you. All right, moving. We got to get to the MAGA versus HBCU students. Now, people are covering the story, but I have a little golden nugget to share with you that I haven't seen people mention yet. This is not what you think it is. These guys that went onto the HBCU campus, they are not who you think they are. And that's what this story is really about. And I got the skinny on this, which I'm going to share with you. They are basically trying to do these college debates in Charlie Kirk's name, but they're not telling you who they really are. And that's what this story is really about. Then you'll put all the pieces together. Okay. So this is what happened. It was at Tennessee State University. Conservative group removed from Tennessee HBCU after unannounced visit. So this part here is important. The visit was unannounced. When you host an event at a university, you have to actually have this cleared with the university. Even something as simple as setting up a table and wanting to do debates, you have to have permission to use that space. Now, I know that because I worked at the university for a long time. So even those things, that part there is very important. Remember, when Charlie Kirk went to those campuses to debate college students, those things were approved. So this should have been the first red flag that stood out to people. This was not approved. So who are these guys? It goes on to say here, and I'll show you the video footage as well. Let's make this bigger for the people in the back. A conservative activist group unannounced visit to Tennessee State University ignited a debate over free speech and safety on campus. Members of Fearless Debates said they had come to TSU to create conversation and discourse. The NAACP Nashville chapter countered that group's goal was to provoke and demean students at the historically Black university. Witnesses said the group arrived Tuesday wearing MAGA hats and carried poster boards and messages that included "Deport all illegals now" and "DEI should be illegal." They brought a table, microphone, and signs without obtaining permission from the university. So again, this here, folks, should have been the big tell. And I think a lot of people fell for this on social media. I'm like, guys, if they didn't have permission from the university, the next thing you got to look into is, who are these guys? Where did they really come from? Are they who they say they are? We'll get to that. Let's continue on. So let me show you those videos here. Well, it says here, we're here at Tennessee State University in Nashville, the first HBCU that we're visiting on the Fearless Tour. Let's talk. So again, they're trying to, I guess, feed off of this thing Charlie Kirk used to do when he used to have these debates on campus. But the big thing here is they did not get permission, which should have been a big red flag to anyone. But people were so busy arguing with each other online that they didn't even look into that part. Now, let's go in and see how some of this took place. We'll go ahead and show you some of the videos here. MAGA supporters kicked off of the HBCU campus by Black students. So here we go.
MAGA supporters invaded our HBCU.
Yo, what is going on over here?
You called the East primitive, but what? We created y'all knowledge. We created y'all science. We created y'all math. Y'all didn't do shit besides steal. Y'all didn't do anything to your. You guys didn't make shit. You guys touch children.
So you notice they're packing up here, and there's the police. Do you know why the police are making them leave? Because again, they didn't have permission. They just showed up with the table. And this is intentional. Guys, pay very close attention, and especially students pay very close attention. Sometimes people do things just to get a reaction out of you. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you the things that they were saying and who they really are. That's what this was really about. Again, when Charlie Kirk did those debates, he had permission from the university. He had approval. They just showed up there. I also think it's very interesting that some people were like, there's an HBCU in Nashville. I think a lot of people may not realize that there are Black people in Nashville. People listen to Nashville and they think it's just country music. That's not the case. And another thing I want to share with you. Did you know the reason why Nashville is called the city of music, the musical city or whatever, right? That doesn't come from country music. That comes from the Frisk Jubilee, which was an all-Black group. So yeah, there are HBCUs in Nashville, and there are Black people in Nashville. Nashville is very diverse. I will say this, it's not what you think it is, because I have a friend that lives there. A lot of people, because there's, the country music scene, I think if you've never been there, it's easy to assume it's mainly just white people that like country music. That's not true. Nashville is very diverse. It is one of the fastest growing cities in the East. And you go to Nashville and you'll meet people from all over the place. Yes, Fisk is there. Yeah, that's where that comes from. That's where the music comes from, is the Fisk singing group. Let's continue on here.
You guys
showing them the door.
We walking them to the door, y'all. I don't even know how they got on campus. We gonna figure that out, but I don't know. They need to get like a trespass, penalty or something, because
sending them off.
Tell him it's that boy. He thought he was gonna come up like Charlie.
Yes. Yes. Say good job, TSU.
Good job. Shout out to my school.
They said not up in here. Now, there's another video that I want to show you as well. And these accounts, this account here on Twitter, Eric Daughtry, this is another paid account. A lot of these accounts are paid, right? So this is one of the paid accounts on X, one of the paid conservative accounts. The party of tolerance strikes again. Left-wing rioters kick out young patriots. You see how he frames it? Okay, so here's another one here.
They threw a drink up top.
Oh my gosh, they threw a drink up top.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Did somebody just throw something in our car?
Arrest. They just tried to hit the car. They just tried hitting the car.
Whoa. That was like.
So do you see? See, guys, this is the thing. The best thing that you can do when something like this happens is to ignore them, right? Don't throw things at the car. See, that's what they want you to do. They took these videos and they put them online and say, oh my God, look at these angry mob rioters that came after us, throwing things at us. That's what they want you to do. The best thing you can do is report it, because apparently like they weren't supposed to be there, and then just ignore and walk away. That is the best thing you can do. But they are trying to get a rise out of you.
Loud.
So, yeah. And they knew that this would happen. They knew going to this campus, okay, well, let's see. Here's another one here. There's a number of them. Yeah, so that was one of the other videos of them there as well. And then I think we have another one here. Let me just share this here. It says Tennessee State University, along with other HBCUs, are celebrating after police had to escort us off campus for our safety. Pay attention to this guy's name, David Cott, right? David Cott. Okay. So do you see how he frames it? They had to escort us off campus for our safety. To be clear, the cops didn't ask us to leave due to being there without permission. They decided after 10 minutes that for our safety, it is best that we end the event. Due to a hostile mob, the cops were forced to escort us to our cars. Notice the vocabulary: safety, hostile, mob. That's exactly what they wanted to happen. Then they clip it, they film it, they clip it, and they put it out there and say, look at those people. Now, here's that video here of them walking away. Now, what people have to understand is this, before I tell you who these people really are. What people have to understand is this. Some people choose to go to an HBCU because they want to be around a Black community. They want to be somewhere where they feel safe. Now, for me, I went to a predominantly white institution, public university for undergrad, private for grad school. I didn't go to HBCU. And the reason why I didn't go to HBCU is one of it had to do with money. One of it had to do with money. But the other one was I knew that's not the real world. I knew that, especially for what I wanted to do for my career, I knew that I was not always guaranteed to be in those spaces. That's just the reality. So I decided to I went to a PWI, but I had friends that went to HBCUs, and they said for them, it was a great experience where they felt like they could be their authentic self and they could talk about things that they felt more comfortable talking about at a HBCU and not a PWI. Now, another thing that people get wrong is they assume that no one else is at a HBCU, that white people can't attend HBCUs. I've seen people make this argument that it's racist because white people can't go there. That's actually false. There are white people that attend HBCUs. So hopefully you learned something by watching this show. But who are those guys? They're not who you think they are. In fact, here's one of them. Cam Higbee. He was one of the guys. This is the extremely civil discussion that the riot at Tennessee State Tennessee State HBCU started with. In this video, you watch the mob grow, begin shouting, destroying our stuff, possessing weapons, blocking our way out, and screaming racist epithets, all because of this civil convo. Does everybody see what they are doing? Mob, grow, weapons, blocking, screaming. These words mean things. This is exactly what they wanted to happen. So this is one of them, was Cam Higby. All right. And I would play, I think this might be copied. Let me see. I think it's I think this is one of those ones that doesn't work. But that's Cam Higby. But do you know who these guys really are? You got Cam and you have David Cott. Check this out, fam. Surprise, surprise. The two guys who act like campus rules are optional are literally paid mouthpieces for the genocidal Israeli government. Kirk was America first. These grifters can't even fake that. Well, well, well. Look at this, folks. David Cott going to start doing more TikTok live debates about Israel. Join us. There he is right there. It says Israel's war is a just war. Let's look at the other guy, Cam Higby. Here's 20 minutes of my footage from inside the Gaza Strip. This completely debunks the notion that Israel is blocking food aid. Ladies and gentlemen, the two guys who were at that campus are paid Israel influencers. Why does that matter? Didn't Charlie Kirk say he was America first? Didn't he say he was America first? Didn't Charlie Kirk have these events scheduled? Yeah. When he was going to debate these kids and go to the campuses and stuff like that, wasn't that scheduled? Don't you find it somewhat strange that two pro-paid Israel influencers went to an HBCU and now they are on social media trying to make it seem like they are the most victimized, they are the most marginalized? You see where I'm going with this? I keep telling you, the white minority exists, in my opinion, to allow more oppression for those who are actual minorities. What do I mean by that, right? As long as they can make the case that Israelis, that, oh, woe is us, everything happened to us, protect us, we can't do anything, we deserve all of this, blah, 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 blah. As long as you have that, that takes the attention, the priority, and the focus off of those who are actually oppressed. These are the things people need to pay attention to. I knew there was something about this that was off. Not to say that Charlie Kirk wouldn't do this, but the fact that it wasn't even scheduled, right? So two things can be true. It could be true that they really did want to have a debate, but it can also be true that they were there to just get some type of anger and, as they said, hostility from the crowd so that they could sell it and put it out there on social media, make themselves look like the oppressed. And they're pro-Israel influencers. What do you know? And what's worse about that, and they're doing it under, they're trying to do like the Charlie Kirk thing. We might see more of this. We might see more of this happen. Because anybody can just put on a MAGA hat and just walk up to a college campus and say, hey, debate me on this. That don't mean they are who they say they are. What a crazy world we live in. But I think most people didn't mention that part. Everyone I saw that talked about this, they didn't mention that part. It's important that you know who they are. So now you got Israel, they got people coming for the black folks. There you go. Yes, exactly. Nisi, they're trying to incite a race war. Exactly. Exactly. Kermit said Timu Charlie Kirk. That's kind of funny. Oh my God. We have one more story, guys. I'm going to try to not keep you too long because I said I was going to be done before 11. I'm so sorry. Okie dokie. If you have not done so, please smash that like button. Thank you. And we're going to go into our final story for tonight. So it appears that Charlie Kirk's friend, Andrew Colvett, has come forward in a recent interview to basically confirm some of the things that the Gray Zone said in that article that were happening behind the scenes for Charlie Kirk. Now, they don't confirm everything, but I think you guys need to hear some of what is said here, because I think that this is important. This conversation took place, I think the channel is, one second. It's called Real Alex Clark. Someone sent this to me. So Andrew Colvett, he worked with Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA. Also, someone's very close to him. I want you to hear what he said was happening behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
It's interesting because there's been a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, saying a lot of things about this issue. And, on the one hand, I love it because you've got the pro-Israel side claiming him and you've got the anti-Israel side claiming him now, which is a posthumous thing. But I think that's interesting. You got the Catholics claiming him and the evangelicals claiming him. And
was he becoming Catholic?
No, but he really loved Catholic Mass. He loved the ritual of it. He loved the beauty of old Catholic churches and the stained glass.
And him and Erica would go sometimes.
Yeah, well, Erica's a cradle Catholic, but she ended up kind of like me. I grew up Catholic and First Communion and went to Catholic high school. But then I ended up becoming a Christian in college through a Protestant church, through a non-denominational kind of more experience. It was actually a Presbyterian, and then it was kind of non-denominational. And
pause. So this I found to be very interesting because friends of mine that grew up Catholic, I only went to Mass twice in my life. One was for my friend's mom's funeral, and it was a funeral, but there was also like Mass. And another one was when like my roommate asked me to go with her and I didn't know what I was doing. Like she didn't prepare me for like, it's different. Like there's certain processes you have to go through like during Mass. And if you're not Catholic, you won't know what to do. Like it's that kind of thing. But like she didn't tell me. Anyway, that was kind of interesting to hear because from my experience, Mass wasn't something that you just kind of go to just because you kind of like it. From my experience, like I said, like there's certain like procedures and like that you follow throughout Mass. And so, yeah, somebody knows, under kneel, stand, sit, kneel. Exactly. So to me, it almost sounds like maybe he may have been interested in going in that direction, but Catholicism is a little bit different than like going to a Methodist church on Sunday or going to the non-denominational like Protestant churches on Sunday. It's a little bit different. And it's interesting that he's saying he was just going just because he liked going sometimes. To me, that almost sounds like he might have been interested in converting. That's kind of how I see it.
I think Erica kind of follows that same path. She and I share that.
Also, by the way, I just want to draw attention to, she's posted a photo of her and Charlie and the kids in Mass before, and somebody in the comment section said, "Oh, are you guys converting?" And she said, "No, we just like attending sometimes." So she herself had said no.
Yeah,
publicly.
and I think Charlie, one of the things, Charlie really hated worshiping in like a gym, or some sort of kind of blank space that you just turn into church. There's no problem. He didn't have a problem with the act of that. He just didn't prefer it. And he loved, again, the ritual, the ancient, feel of a Catholic mass, and the fact that everybody around the world that was worshiping as Catholic, he loved that. So he had some really big theological hangups with that. You can go check the videos out, him debating with Michael Knowles, in good fun. I mean, they were dear friends, but they loved kind of debating the whole Protestant versus Catholic thing.
So tensions were rising in the movement. This is not news to anybody. If you are participating in the movement, you see it with your own eyes. You see it on X if you live online like we do. And Charlie was aware of it.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, as far as the rumors go, for donor pressures and all of that, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. Internally, what I noticed was, yes, he was getting pressure about having Tucker speak. There were people angry that we were allowing Tucker to speak. He wanted to double down and said, I don't care that people are mad. I have tons of different ideologies on this stage, religions, viewpoints within the conservative movement. Everybody's welcome. I want everybody to have a chance to share their ideas. Mm-hmm. And that's the only pressure I know of as far as.
Talk about so much for free speech, right? Like, it's really weird when you hear people say this today, because Tucker Carlson is like this really big name. He's been around for a long time. And it feels kind of weird, even though he's not with Fox News anymore. It just feels kind of weird to hear someone say on the right that they didn't want Tucker Carlson to speak at an event. It's weird. Like, I feel like that's something I would hear from people on the left. Does that sound weird to you guys? It's still just kind of bizarre to me.
Donor pressure that he ever received recently.
A couple things that's worth clarifying. And you asked me this earlier, so let me make sure I'd say it. Charlie's position on Israel was very clear. I like them more than I like Hamas. I just wish I was free to criticize Israel and not be labeled an anti-Semite, because I can criticize my own government and not be called anti-American.
Right.
But why do I have more freedom to do, that and not criticize, a foreign government?
Because you're on the right. Because you're a part of the Republican Party. This is another thing. Because of the evangelicals, you guys know that there's more Christian Zionists in the U.S. than Jewish Zionists. I hope everybody's aware of that. So that pressure that comes from the evangelical Christian side, that's why that's why in conservative like politics, that's a no-no. Now, don't get me wrong. You got like Democrat politicians who are like, no, don't criticize Israel either. But most of the criticism for Israel historically has been, on the Democrat side, right? Or those who are not politically aligned at all. But because of the evangelical Christians, people like Mike Huckabee, et cetera, because of the end times, like, the narrative scripture, whatever you want to call it, it's not as accepted on the right. So it's just kind of like, it's one of those things. It's like being a Democrat and not being pro-choice. It's like being a Democrat and being pro-life. It's not as accepted in that space. There are a few that are like Tim Kaine was pro-life. That was Hillary Clinton's running mate, not Miss Free the Women. He was pro-life. And Henry Cuellar, Representative Henry Cuellar, is also pro-life. But it's not as welcomed. You know what I mean? So that's the thing about being on that side of the aisle. You can't like cross the evangelicals, and they're some of the biggest Zionists. In fact, I know we keep talking about AIPAC, but people also need to talk about Kufi. Now that's the Christian organization that donates and money to Israel, raises all that money for Israel. And from what I understand, they raise more money for Israel than AIPAC does. That's why.
And he was really upset that there was this sort of clampdown on the freedom of expression, the freedom of ideas, free speech when it came to a foreign government. And I will say this, he felt like he had earned the right as a friend of the Jewish people over the years and all of the things that he had done. He felt like his bona fides in that respect were unassailable and that he should have the freedom to say, hey, it's time to end the war. Hey, it's time to stop the killing. But, when with Tucker, for example, yeah, I mean, we took some pushback. We lost some donors. And what's interesting is it wasn't necessarily Jewish donors, although there was, because that's a misconception about Turning Point's funding base, by the way, is, it's not a whole lot of Jewish donors. It's just not. There was always, I saw the comments online like, oh, the Jewish shekels or something like, I mean, it's all this gross stuff. It just wasn't true.
This part to me here was very weird because the articles from the Gray Zone said Zionist donors. I find it very strange that Andrew COVID came in here and he said Jewish donors. We're not talking about the same thing. Like I told you, the majority of Zionists in the United States are Christian Zionists. So why does Andrew lead with that? It's kind of weird. It's like he's trying to tell people, well, Charlie was starting to feel a little bit differently behind the scenes. But at the same time, it's like he's also still trying to make sure he does the bidding of Israel. Like, let's push back and let people know Turning Point doesn't have a lot of Jewish. I don't remember the Gray Zone article saying that. I remember it saying Zionists. I feel like he's kind of exposing himself here a little bit. But what he does confirm is that, yeah, they were losing donors because of who he chose to bring out, Tucker Carlson, because he was feeling differently in certain ways. So that also backs up what the Gray Zone article reported.
And it isn't true. But we did lose, one in particular towards the end that was frustrating. There's this great clip when we were in Myrtle Beach and he got asked if, from somebody in the audience, if he was going to, debate Candace or, disavow Tucker. And Charlie's answer I thought was amazing. I remember he came off stage. He's like, "Do you like that one?" And I was like,
he would always ask that for reassurance.
Yeah. He always loved like, "Did you see that? Did you listen?
Yeah. Do I look good? Was that a good clip? Do you think that'll go viral?"
Yeah. And I remember saying like, "Yeah, I thought it was amazing. It was morally so crystal clear." And he basically said, "I don't appreciate being morally blackmailed." And and every time people would say that to him, he would dig his heels in. It's like, well, maybe Tucker's going to give 2 speeches now at MFest.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll invite so and so.
That was one thing. Like,
here's that thing again about the blackmail, right? Which is also something that was mentioned in one of the Gray Zone articles. I think it was either the first or the second one about the blackmail. What were they trying to blackmail him about? What was this big secret that could not get out? So now Andrew COVID is confirming as well that Charlie Kirk said to him he doesn't appreciate people trying to blackmail him. Blackmail him about what, though? What is the secret? Shazmatica says, pageant queen, well-connected, ideal candidate for a traditional wife persona. Yeah, I remember. I think I saw that his wife was in beauty pageants.
Charlie and I relate to him so much is that him and I both do that where we don't like being told what to do.
Oh, I've noticed that before.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Andrew, I'm like, oh, there's so many things that we could talk about. How many times that Andrew and Charlie have had to put out fires for me that I've started. But like, yeah, when I'm told I can't do something, it's like, well, I'm going to do it even harder then. That's just my personality. Mm-hmm. Charlie is very much the same way.
I think that's the key. It's like Charlie was a friend of the Jewish people and a friend of Israel. Did he have opinions about the prosecution of the war, he thought their PR was abysmal, thought they were doing more harm than good in many ways for their own cause. So all of those things were true. And he was upset that he couldn't express those things freely without all of this pressure coming down on the organization. He has a lot of great Jewish friends. And
why does he keep saying this? Why does he keep saying he has a lot of great? It's almost as though he feels like he has to come out and do some type of damage control. Do you guys get that impression? That's the impression that I'm getting from him. It's just like, I don't know. It's like someone coming out there saying, listen, she has a lot of great black friends, and one of her coworkers was black, and there's a neighbor down the street in her neighborhood that is black, and it's just weird, right? Now, to this point here that he makes, that he says that, he did like Israel, I just want to show you, we'll come back to this because we do have to be clear. A lot of us remember this when he was talking about Gaza. Listen to this.
So, it's funny. I used to say that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't.
When you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't kill Jews, stupid Muslims.
So that's the Charlie Kirk that many of us were familiar with. So was that how he really felt? Was that scripted? Was he told to say those things? That's brutal. That's really brutal. And demonizing Muslim people, that's not Christian-like. That's the thing that, kind of killed me about, like with Christianity and the way that I kind of felt, about the church as a whole. It's just like, they would always talk about like the Christian way and how you're supposed to treat people as Christians. But apparently some groups of people, it was okay for you to demonize. That was the thing I never really understood. Let's continue on here.
And some people that maybe some not so good ones, right? But I think it's just a nuanced thing.
Was Charlie offered $150 million from Israel?
As far as I know, no.
I had never heard anything like that. Everyone I've asked has said the same thing.
And by the way, just
as far as he knows, no. But do you think Charlie Kirk would have told them that? Considering how people freaked out about him inviting Tucker Carlson to speak? Just something to think about. People don't tell you everything.
For what it's worth, it doesn't matter the amount that would have been coming down. We would have said no.
And there's evidence that is true.
Turning Point does not, Charlie would not accept foreign money.
Exactly.
We only took American money.
Yeah.
There was money sent to us, like practically in multiple instances where they're trying to cram it down our bank account. And we said no, we canceled like money wires and things.
No foreign money, and also no handouts from the government. During the pandemic, 100%. He refused to do mass layoffs that everybody else in the country was doing. Said no to the whatever that check was. What was that they were handing out? Stimulus check.
Yeah. The PPE loans, right? I always get PPP and PPE mixed up, but
yeah. But it was a good amount of money that at the time we could have used.
Yeah.
He put out a company statement saying, this was tempting for sure, but we're going to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very principled in that way.
He was extremely principled, especially on foreign money. I remember moments we'd be at like an event, and some foreign people would come up and like demand a meeting or try and get a meeting with Charlie, and Charlie would look at me and go, deal with them, get rid of them. Like, just, I don't want to talk to them. So I often had the job of
being the bad guy
and say, I'm so sorry, Charlie's schedule's busy. And, it's unfortunate. We just can't fit you in. Oh, well, here's my card, please. Let's, and I mean, on one occasion when that happened, a couple of years later, those people we saw him in the news and they got arrested, and he texted me, he's like, see, I knew it. My spidey sense could feel it. And Charlie did have a spidey sense for who he could trust and who he couldn't trust. And, in this business, there's a lot of shady people that will try and insinuate themselves into your circle, into your orbit. And you have to be as wide as a serpent and as gentle as a dove. And you have to be able to really assess people's motives and cross-check things. And Charlie was the best at that.
Have you guys...
So talking about assessing people's motives and cross-checking things, does that include money from Bill Ackman? I noticed he kept focusing so much on foreign money, never taking foreign money, never, like that type of thing. And it's like, but they're Zionist donors right here in the United States. So see, two things can be true at the same time, because if Andrew tells you that they were against taking foreign money, that can be true. But it can also be true that you were still taking money from rich Zionist donors who live right here in the United States, like Bill Ackman. So just pay attention to the way that this conversation is going. It's just kind of weird to me, like how quickly he came out. Also, I also think it's a little bit weird, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I grieve longer than others. I found it kind of weird how Andrew Kovic, Ben Shapiro, and that guy with the beard who I don't like, Matt Walsh, I think he was one of the ones. I found it kind of weird how, like, just like that, after Charlie Kirk's death, they took up the microphone that quick on his show. Because to me, I'm just kind of like, no time to grieve. I found that kind of weird. It's just like, like, they're just like, oh, the show must go on. I found it weird how Ben Shapiro's just like, I'm taking up the mantle and I'm going to do Charlie Kirk's job now. I was like, damn, that was fast. Like, it's very interesting.
Had a conversation, on the board and just C-level executives of the company. Have you guys talked to Eric about that? Just like looking out for opportunists that are going to be circling around her at this point?
I don't think I need to tell Erica that.
Yeah.
Erica is very shrewd. She's very smart. She's very sharp. There's a great story. I can't really tell you who this was, but.
So they're talking about prepping Erica for opportunists, right? So then it gets into the whole Erica stuff. But that was the part I wanted you guys to hear about. I'm just making sure I'm not skipping the other part. Yeah, the cameras. We got to get to the cameras. I'm sorry. I can't skip that part.
Devastating wound.
Why did our team start taking down cameras immediately? Was it just in shock and just thinking like, this is what we do and just not thinking it's a crime scene?
I think massive shock. I think there's been some stories about the SD cards or whatever. That was because even in the shock, there was an understanding that the proximity of those cameras were going to be evidence, and they wanted to make sure that it didn't get stolen out of the cameras. But B, they didn't want anybody to run in. I mean, there was those videos of the kid running and grabbing the hats.
Hats, yeah.
So there was an understanding. I mean, I talked to the team on that, and they said, because we know people can be evil.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I'm sorry. When people are under shock, I don't think the first thing that's going through your mind is, let me pull down this camera. I think, especially after something like that happened, it's either to, let's try to help the person that was just shot, or your initial response may be to run. And what struck me very odd about watching that footage is that guy's initial response, the guy who took the camera down, was to, let's take this camera down out of the way. That was very weird to me. The calmness of that guy was weird to me. Just kind of strange. Like, I don't know. Like, how is that the first thing that goes through your mind? I mean, it's almost as if nothing. I'm not going to go there, but I just can't imagine how you could be that calm and that's the first thing that goes through your mind is, let me take down the camera. I just can't imagine that. And to me, it's almost like you knew. Let me go on. Let me go on before I get in trouble.
they grabbed the SD card so that nobody could get that footage.
So that law enforcement could get it.
Did I answer your Maha question sufficiently? Yeah, okay. He loved Maha.
Well,
he loved Maha moms too. He thought that Maha was the most underappreciated and the.
Do you see how he flipped it there? I don't know if they edited this or not, but she was like law enforcement of the cameras, and then he brought up Maha again. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. This whole thing to me is just very weird. And the way I kind of feel about it is this. the reaction, the way everything went down. Like if you're at an outdoor event and someone gets shot right in front of you, the first thing that goes through your mind is, let me take the camera down. I don't think I'll ever understand that. I don't think I'll ever understand it. All right, guys. 10:44. So I think I did pretty good. Eric is going to close out the show for me because I do have a hard stop. Eric, I think we have a couple of super chats that you'll want to get as well. Thank you. All right, guys.
All right.
Talk to you later. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys live Tuesday night.
Tuesday. All right. We're going to say good night to our Sabby so she can get away a little early. I'm going to do a little closeout here. We're going to read some chats. I also wanted to highlight, let me bring this up, the latest 11 Demands Substack post. Let me get to that in the right spot here. Sorry, just shifting a couple windows out around. There it is. And yeah, like Sabrina had a really good story about Democrats. You know, I think, you know, one thing she definitely hit on was that they're not afraid of losing because they don't really, they're more interested in getting paid than winning, right? The Democrats actually at this point, and, you know, especially the leadership are doing just fine. I mean, they're making their money, they're in the opposition and whatnot. And so it's a uniparty, right? It's, you know, we know who they work for. And this latest Substack article, actually, let me also get it into the chat just to have it in there. All right. So this latest Substack article on the 11 Demands Substack is called "Know Your Enemy," and I think you can get an idea from this little collage who the finger may be pointing at here. So who is your enemy? The corporate media would have you believe that it's everyone in the wrong party, right? In the other party, they have us fighting each other. They present one theatrical fight after another. A game where, you know, it's a game where they're wearing different colored uniforms, but they're really on the same team. Our political leaders would have you believe the enemy is the dictator of another country, like a Putin, right? Or, you know, they're fear mongering day and night about what they might do to us. Everyone feels it. Everyone knows there's something fundamentally wrong with our country, our society, our world. To understand the reason this is, we must ask the question, well, who has the power, the wealth, the control? The answer is clear, right? The billionaires. Both literally and figuratively, the buck stops with them. These billionaires, they have one special talent, and that is turning money into more money, into their pockets. Everything else to them is secondary. The greed of the billionaires is insatiable. If that wasn't the case, they wouldn't be billionaires. You know, it's kind of a self-selecting class there. Our capitalist system funnels money and resources from the many into the hands of those very few at the top. And here in the late stages, right, late stage capitalism, the wealth inequality is worse than ever. While everyone else struggles, they get richer and richer. Even if we put aside the morality of allowing that level of wealth and power, there is a simple practical fact about the billionaires. We can't afford them. The current system is unsustainable and headed for collapse, and it's just a matter of when and how. So yes, the 99% must view them as the enemy, the billionaires, but they are not all powerful. The billionaire class, yes, they have enormous wealth and resources, but they also have weaknesses. One, they compete with each other ruthlessly. There are different flavors of billionaires from different economic sectors. There's banking, finance, energy, the war machine, Silicon Valley, media, big pharma, real estate. They all want not just a piece of the pie, but every one of them wants all the pie. They knock each other down without a second thought. Two, the billionaires, they can't control the narrative anymore. There was a time when corporate media could decide what the 99% could see and even think, but now this is the information age, and anyone who cares to look can see what's happening. And this is very powerful. Three, they are few, we are many. Anytime we, the non-billionaires can decide that it is time for real change. But the only way that happens is with a mass movement, one that is organized around a clear, concise set of demands, like the 11 demands for real democracy and MCDS. We've seen glimmers of this kind of mass action, whether it's Occupy Wall Street, the George Floyd protests, the Bernie movement, but they lacked a comprehensive explanation of the root causes. They lacked clear demands and systemic solutions. 11 Demands proposes to provide this. No billionaire is going to save us, right? It's quite the opposite. They are, as this is saying, they are the enemy and they need to be treated as such. But it's up to us. So I'd say join the 11 Demands Collective and let's get started on something real. And if you're wondering what's the 11 Demands Collective, if you go to 11demands.org, there's, a group of us who, are considering ourselves the 11 Demands Collective. And the idea behind being in the collective is that, you take it upon yourself to educate people, identify the core problems, call out representatives, define solutions, and spread the word about MCDS. So if you want to see, more about that, go to 11demands.org. I'll put the Substack article in the chat again, and that's the readout of the 11 Demands article for tonight. Meanwhile, let's see what we got for some chats. Got a few of them built up here. Thanks. There we go. Thank you, Andrea, for the super chat, who says, thank you, Sabby, for helping us with sense making all that makes no sense. Indeed. Yeah, the information is powerful. And congrats and good to see Cheetah, having been a member for 10 months, who uses his 10-month member chat to say, it seems every bad road lead to Israel Zios. And thanks for this one, Roger Meadows, who says a lot of that good Spidey sense did him on 910. Actually, I have to admit, Roger, I was kind of thinking the same thing, but we can't go there too much on the old YouTubes. And let's see, we got some more here on. There we go. Sorry, just getting things lined up right. That ain't it. That's it. On the rock fins. And let me just get this controlled so I can scroll it as needed. There we are. All right. Thanks for the tipped comment on Rockfin, Roger. Roger says, my advice to Democrats would be to stop manufacturing and astroturfing leaders who you feel comfortable with. Instead, go into communities and find people who are helping their community, like with mutual aid. These people already have grassroots backing in the community. Take them and instead of trying to mold them into your own image, take their strengths and extenuate them. They come with grassroots already prepackaged. You don't have to do anything at all. Just give it to them and let them rock out instead of trying to micromanage. And thanks for this one. Why wouldn't anyone think that Black people, specifically in the freedmen, are in Tennessee? It is a southern state. The largest concentration of us are in the former Confederate states and border states. Tennesseans, during the Great Migration to northern cities, ended up in Milwaukee. Thanks for that. And I think we also have a little something out here on the Rumble. Let's see if I can catch that. Do that. All right. Thanks for this tipped comment on Rumble from Goo81, who says, it was mentioned that Erica Kirk's dad was a retired Israeli arms merchant. Interesting. Thanks for that. Do a little remove here. There we go. All right. So that is going to do our show for tonight. Let's see. I think I caught all the, I don't know, maybe I missed one on the Rumble here. Let me make sure I caught this one. Mark Pugsley. I'm not sure if we did this one before or not, but we'll show it just in case. Mark Pugsley, who says, Sabby, I bailed on the DEMS in 27. Oh, yeah, no, we read that one. All right. We are good. We are good, says Corey. Yeah, and Corey's also in the background, also doing the producer thing, and yeah, when talking about the Zionists and who was funding Charlie Kirk, I would encourage everyone to be sure to read Max Blumenthal and the Gray Zone and what they published and all that. And, and Max in the Gray Zone, they don't make like wild claims over there. They really just dig into the facts and report what they find. And, they're saying that there were Zionist billionaires who funded Charlie Kirk early on. And that was just a big part of his bread and butter, where his funding came from, and he was finding it difficult now that he wasn't being totally 1,000% supportive of Israel to keep moving with that. And that, and what Max is saying is he's not so sure that Israel was behind what happened, but he was, he feels that the Israeli MO is to defund and to wreck your reputation, like they did to Candace Owens, like they do to Max. And so, he feels like that would have really been their play, and that's what they were working on. But anyways, yeah, can't recommend the Gray Zone enough. Definitely check out their reporting on all this if you want to see the deal with it. And we got one more late super chat coming in. Thanks for this one, Sarah, who writes, TPUSA had a troll farm in Phoenix that paid youth group teens to act like they were a group called America Progress Now and posted socialist-themed memes to split the Democratic vote, acting as though they were Green Party leaning. Yep, that sounds about right for that kind of activity. So, yeah, so it's quite a confusing mess, a maelstrom, as a word to put on it. And we got one more from Netanyahu, who's on the Epstein list, thanks, who says he thinks Charlie's wife killed him. All right. Well, it's an interesting theory. We'd like to see some evidence. But yeah, it is certainly all, as usual, a mishmash. I would say keep your eye on the power, keep your eye on who's really pulling the strings. And when you do that, when you follow those strings, those lines of power, you inevitably get to the billionaires who are corrupting our government. It's MCDS, the money and the corruption. We need to have clear demands. Demand number one, have a government that's not totally corrupt. And we get into the solutions for that. You can check it out at 11demands.org. And we're going to, of course, keep talking about that and, all the news and everything else on this show. Sabby will be back at it. And back at you on Tuesday. We're going to take the weekend off. Apologies, but we'll be back to it on Tuesday. And until then, as our Sabs says, keep up, have that good night and keep up that fight. We'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.